Chapter 11, Begging for Mercy. In the fighter Fodan Pigu realm, one's muscles, bones and even skins will be tempered, causing one's strength to soar rapidly. The difference between it and Qianqi realm is like heaven to earth. Yet, the brat in Qianqi realm is able to cause a Pigu realm expert to vomit blood with just a single slap. Everyone found the sight unbelievable. Besides, wasn't this fellow the last in the sparring during the teacher qualification examination? Why is he so strong now? It must just be a coincidence, do not fear him. Qian Biao howls. One of the teachers also agrees with what Qian Biao says and charges over. Just like Li Yuan, he has reached Pigu realm advanced stage. His muscles are just like metal tendons and his skin is just like a metal plate, giving an impression of indestructibility. You shall fall to the ground. Stepping forward, this teacher lifts his eyebrow and prepares to smack him with his palm. Papa! The compression of the air results in explosive sonic booms. Facing the other party's ruthless blows, Zhang Xuan remains calm. With his forefinger and middle finger together, he strikes upwards at a slanted angle. Pada! The teacher whose body is like a metal plate feels a slight pain at his armpits before his vision went dark and he collapses onto the floor. What? In 2 strikes, 2 fighter Fodan teachers were defeated. The remaining 2 teachers, including Qian Biao, knows that the teacher whom they had been looking down upon isn't as simple as they thought to be. Let's attack together. With a loud roar, Qian Biao raises his fist and charges over. However, even before he made a move, Zhang Xuan suddenly appears right before him. His left hand grabs his face while his right hand pokes him lightly. Putong! A pain in the abdomen and Qian Biao collapses to the floor as well. The moment his body hits the floor, the last teacher whom he teamed up with also falls to the ground and convulses as though he is epileptic. You! How did you know all of our Mingmen? With a spurt of fresh blood, Qian Biao stares at the fellow in front of him in fright. The new chapters on novelin.com. He finally understands why even though the other party's strength is far from them, the results ended in the direct opposite. Their opponent found the Mingmen of their cultivation the moment he strikes. How could they have possibly expected this and guard against it? All cultivators would tend to have a Mingmen as their weakness and the moment it is struck, even if the person striking is a child, it would be possible to kill the person. However, Mingmen is the core of a human, thus cultivators would protect it carefully. Even the closest kin would not know where their Mingmen is. Although Zhang Xuan does not possess strong cultivation, he seems to know where their Mingmen is and strikes at their vitals directly. How could they resist against someone like that? Hearing his words of astonishment, Zhang Xuan smiles without explaining. Of course, it is through the Library of Heaven's Path. Not only does the Library of Heaven's Path allows him to see through flaws in one's cultivation techniques, he is also able to see the personal problems of the cultivator and his Mingmen. They are all written in detail on it. Knowing his opponent's Mingmen and the weaknesses in their skills, even if Zhang Xuan transcended from Earth and still isn't very familiar with the skills of this foreign world, it is still a simple task to subdue the 4 of them. Since you all chose to accept the bet, you all should have prepared yourself for the consequences of losing the bet. If you all had obediently allowed me to slap you all, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Zhang Xuan chuckles. Zhang Xuan, you don't need to get gleeful over it. I don't know what kind of despicable methods you used to find out where our Mingmen is to wound me, but as the least experienced teacher, you attacked other teachers in public. Just by this alone, I am able to send a complaint letter to the academy to have your teacher qualification revoked. Qian Biao howls. There are clear levels between teachers in the academy. For lower-level teachers to make a move against higher-level teachers is an immoral action. Zhang Xuan is young, and he also scored 0 for his teacher qualification examination. Thus, he is considered as one of the least qualified teacher in the academy. For him to wound 4 people who are more qualified than him, if the academy were to be informed of this incident, there would definitely be an uproar. His teacher qualification license being revoked is a small matter, it might be possible for him to be directly expelled. Why? Since you can't defeat me using martial arts, you want to try to the rules to suppress me. Despite facing such threats, Zhang Xuan doesn't seem to be bothered by it. Indeed. Li Yuan is also thinking about this. Excitement and cruelty flash across his eyes. If you obediently kneel before us now and allow us to beat you up, perhaps when our moods lift, we won't report the incident. Otherwise, prepare to be fired. After being fired from your position, without your identity as a teacher protecting you, no one will say anything even if you are killed. Another teacher howls. In Tianshuan Kingdom, the teachers of an academy are of high social status. The moment they lose their job, their social status would also fall correspondingly. If so, the few of them would really dare to make a move to kill him. Since you all want to deal with this using rules, alright, I will also deal with this using rules then. With a tranquil gaze, he walks a few steps to Qian Biao and says, Qian Biao Laoshi, you secretly used Elder Chen Ming's treasure to please your concubine. 3 months ago, you embezzled from the school's fund to buy a house for her. A month ago, when you broke Elder Liu Quan's most beloved porcelain, you pushed the blame onto a student, causing him to be expelled. Do I need to be recounting all of these matters in front of the school leaders? You. Qian Biao's eyes narrow as his plump body twitches uncontrollably. An inconceivable fear surges through his entire body. He looks as though he has seen a ghost and is on the verge of going insane. He committed all of those without leaving behind any traces, so no one knew about it. Even his colleagues, Li Yuan and the others, aren't aware, so this fellow, how did he know about it? Furthermore, with such details? Li Yuan Laoshi, did the female student, whom you robbed of her dignity that resulted in her suicide from 3 years ago, return as a vengeful spirit to look for you? A few days ago, you grew an acne on your back. Perhaps, this could be her seeking you for revenge. Ignoring Qian Biao's terrified expression, Zhang Xuan turns to look at Li Yuan. Ah! Hearing those words, Li Yuan hurriedly backs away from fright as his face drains of all color. 3 years ago, he was enchanted by a beautiful female student and he humiliated her, causing her to commit suicide from the shame. This incident was very covert and except for him, no one knew about it. Due to his conscience acting up against him, throughout the 3 years, he often dreamt of the other party coming to reap his life as a vengeful spirit. Furthermore, half a month ago, a giant acne in the shape of a human palm grew on his back, scaring him out of his wits. After hearing Zhang Xuan recount this event with great details, his entire body trembles uncontrollably out of overwhelming fear. Putong! His knees lost his strength and he kneels onto the floor. A sudden pungent smell wafts around the room. To think a fighter for an advanced stage expert would be frightened to the point of being out in public. Du Chun Laoshi, you stole your good brother's business and even poisoned him to death through toxic wine. Although this incident was inconclusive back then, if rumors were to spread out now, do you think that you can continue being a teacher? Bai Lin Laoshi, there isn't any major flaws in your actions. However, due to your interest in antiques, you have accepted many gifts from the students. If I'm not wrong, the ancient jade ring which you wear should be a gift from back then when a student had something to request of you. As for what the request is about and who the student is, do you still need me to go into details? Looking at the 2 remaining teachers, Zhang Xuan states. You are a devil. You aren't human. The remaining 2 teachers are also all frightened out of their wits. This time, their stares are full of fear. Those things that they have done, although it might not be impeccable, they were confident that no outsider would know of it. Yet, how could this fellow be so aware of it? It is as though he is a spectre. When he defeated them through his skills, they only felt ashamed, but not fear. However, when he revealed all of their secrets, they were truly terrified. It is as though the multiple clothes on them were instantly ripped to shreds, causing them to stand nude in front of everyone else. They can already imagine that when the information leaks out, whether they could remain as teachers is already a small affair. In the worst-case scenario, they might be sent to the teacher court and be killed on the spot. We were wrong. Zhang Xuan Laoshi, as a great man, don't bear grudges against minor figures like us. Please spare us. Trembling, they unwillingly beg for mercy. I am lazy to bother with what you all did in the past, just stop pissing me off in the future. Also, if you all don't change and continue committing more vile actions, I won't mind interfering to ensure that you all would receive punishments proportionate to your crime. Zhang Xuan waves his hand in disdain. Actually, if these people didn't get on his nerves, he wouldn't be bothered with them. The Library of Heaven's Path is able to peer into all of one's flaws. Even personality and past actions are counted in its midst, not to mention that this is only a small portion of the entire book. However, he isn't the savior of the world, so no matter what they did in the past and do in the future, as long as they do not cross his path, he wouldn't be concerned with them. What these people should have never done is to find trouble with him and make things difficult for him. Since you made things difficult for me, I will show you what death looks like. So that, you would never dare to think of doing the same the second time. We don't dare, we will never dare to. Zhang Xuan Laoshi, these are the identity tokens that you wanted. Take as much as you want to. Chapter 12, Emperor Bloodline. An hour later, Zhang Xuan walks out from the logistics branch and his eyes twinkle in excitement. If it had been his previous self, he would have ended up being taken advantage of today. However, with the Library of Heaven's Path, his life took a complete turn towards another direction. Perhaps, it is a blessing for me to transcend over. This kind of exciting life is what I hope for. Zhang Xuan clenches his fist and exhales a breath of air. In his previous life, he was only a librarian living a plain and simple life that only rotates around the library and his home. Even if he were to continue on like that, he would only continue claiming his salary and continue with his aimless life. However, things are different here. With a great gift package known as the Library of Heaven's Path, perhaps he would be able to walk further and become stronger. He would be able to live an entirely new and exciting life. At this moment, Zhang Xuan has finally become a part of the world. He no longer struggles in his heart over the dilemma between his homeland and this world. Don't pull me. Let me die, I want to die. Just when he is secretly celebrating, he hears a piercing wail from a distance not too far away. It sounds like a frenzied bull, causing one's heart to tear in agony. Turning around, he sees a fatty howling that he would charge towards the man-made lake in the academy and commit suicide by jumping into it. Behind the fatty, no one tries to stop him. The fatty himself also doesn't charge forward despite howling non-stop. Suddenly, he turns around and grabs the palm of a student beside him and puts it on himself, making it seem as though the student is pulling him back. Then, he continues howling. Don't pull me, let me die. I don't want to live anymore. Everyone is speechless. That's too shameless. Zhang Xuan shakes his head. This fatty, despite not wanting to die, insists on portraying a fake image of someone restraining himself from committing suicide. He is really shameless. Knowing that this fellow can't possibly die, he can't be bothered with him anymore. Instead, he walks towards his own classroom. Before he could walk far, the howling voice seems to close in on him as the ground tremors. Following which, a pair of thick arms hugs his leg. Teacher, I'm begging you, please accept me as your disciple. They all scorn me because of my size and reject me. The fatty bursts into tears. Let go. Zhang Xuan is speechless. Up to dated from N0, v.com. Isn't this fellow too eccentric? Rushing over to beg him to accept him as his disciple upon seeing that he is a teacher, Zhang Xuan has never seen such a person in his life. Teacher, I will only let go if you accept me. Tears and snot flow freely from the multiple faucets of the fatty. His voice sounds so sorrowful that even those who are watching from the side start to sympathize with him. Today, I have already visited over 10 teachers but none of them were willing to accept me. This teacher over here, seeing how pitiful I am, please accept me. The examinations among the students would also affect a teacher's evaluation. A plump person like him would tend to have trouble in his battles and his agility. Most renowned teachers would be unwilling to accept him. If you want me to accept you, you would have to at least show me your abilities. What do you expect to achieve by hugging my leg? Zhang Xuan says. He possesses the Library of Heaven's Path, so he should have no trouble recruiting students. If this person turns out to be mediocre, Zhang Xuan would not accept him as his disciple. Teacher, you have to accept me as your disciple. I am quite capable. The fatty looks up hesitantly before slowly loosening his arms. We have to see before we know whether you are capable or not. There is no use saying so much. Seeing how he is still slightly reluctant to release his grip, Zhang Xuan kicks him away scornfully. What is this? It would be one thing for a female student hugging his leg. However, not only is he a male, he is also a fatty. He shivers just by the thought of it. Fine. Look at my abilities. The fatty doesn't feel scorned. He stands up and surveys the surrounding. Then, he carries a few concrete blocks over from a short distance away. After which, lifting one up with his hands, he smashes his head into it. Peng! The concrete block shatters. After which, he carries a few more concrete block and shatters it using his elbow and leg. Without an exception, they all shatter. This fellow may seem plump, but he is skilled in Henglian martial arts. Ignoring his Henglian, Zhang Xuan is currently looking through the book that is automatically compiled in his mind. The skills trained through Henglian can also be considered as a type of martial arts. The moment the fatty displays his prowess, the library began to compile his information. Yuan Tao, a wandering cultivator in the Wang city, fighter 1 Danjuxi realm intermediate. Flaws, 18 aspects. Number 1, the ancient emperor bloodline in his body has yet to be activated. Number 2, his foundations are too weak, the martial arts he trains in. Emperor bloodline. Hearing the old man talk about the young master, the little girl starts to get frightened. Her face distorts and she falls into a dilemma. Hearing those words, the leaving CAOXIONG's eyes light up as he smiles towards the eating Zhang Xuan. Teacher Zhang, could this young lady be the student you just recruited? Haha, looks like it isn't going well for you. She seems to be intending to withdraw as your student. Teachers can pick students and similarly, students can also pick their teachers. If a student finds their teacher inappropriate for them, they can return the token given to them. Cao Xiong's loud voice attracts quite a bit of attention. The mistress and servant duo who were discussing gaze over as well. Second young mistress, is he the teacher you just acknowledged? The old man's gaze falls on Zhang Xuan. Yes. The young girl nods her head. The old man immediately stands up and walks over to Zhang Xuan. Teacher Zhang, the young mistress of our family has decided to withdraw from your lessons. Old Liu. She didn't expect the old man's movements to be so quick. The girl's face flushes red and she hurries over. She looks at Zhang Xuan with a look of apology and says, Teacher, She is the student Zhang Xuan just accepted, Wang Ying. Wang Ying, you know that I do not accept students. The reason why I accepted you is because our paths crossed. Why do you want to withdraw and give up on such a good opportunity? Do you know how many people desire to become my student, but I refused them? Of course, Zhang Xuan will not allow her, who he coaxed with much difficulty, to escape. Thus, he assumes a very elderly tone. What the hell? Hearing his words, the ones in the surroundings who are aware of his background feel their vision turning dark and they almost fainted. Big brother, can you at least have a sense of shame? What do you mean by refusing to accept students, paths crossing and many people desiring to be your student? You are obviously the one who can't recruit any student. This isn't. Under his interrogation, Wang Ying immediately waves her hand but before she could finish her words, someone interrupts her. Yes. Seeing how indecisive his second young mistress is, the old man Uncle Liu steps forward. Teacher Zhang, our family's second young mistress has decided to withdraw from your class. She finds it hard to verbalize it out. I will be depending on you for the withdrawal procedures. Withdraw. Zhang Xuan's eyelids twitch. You have to consider it properly. You will leave behind a bad reputation from withdrawing from a teacher's class. It will be hard other teachers to accept you. Are you going to ruin your young mistress' life just because of your stubbornness? Can you take responsibility? This. Old Liu freezes. Students can withdraw their applications. However, this would be an insult to the teacher. Besides, if you are able to abandon this one, it means you are also able to abandon another one. Normally, this kind of student with bad track record will not be accepted by the other teachers. After all, for someone who has insulted the prestige of the teachers, no one would be willing to accept that kind of students. Besides, accepting the student would mean insulting the teacher to his face. Everyone are colleagues, so it isn't wise for them to offend their peers over a student. Training in the academy, a student can be considered to be ruined if they are unable to find a teacher. Find new stories on novel.com. Old Liu was still quite determined a while ago. However, hearing his words, he is put in a difficult position. After all, he is just a servant. If the second young mistress's future were to be delayed over this, he is unable to bear the consequences. Rest easy, your family's second young mistress has good talent. I will teach her well, she will definitely score well. Seeing that old Liu is wavering, Zhang Xuan starts to coax him as well. What a joke, how could he allow a cooked duck to fly away? Hold it right there, who says that no teacher would dare to accept her? Young lady, if you were to withdraw from this teacher here, I will immediately accept you as my student. Before Zhang Xuan could finish his words, Cao Xiong steps forward with his arms spread grandly. He just lost face in front of Zhang Xuan. Now that an opportunity presents itself before him, how could he simply let go of it? Cao Xiong, what are you intending to do? Zhang Xuan's face darkens. Intending to do? Such a good bud, it would be a pity for it to go to waste. If she were to withdraw from your classes, I will immediately accept her. After all, they came to the academy to study, so it is natural for them to choose the best teacher to guide them, and not someone who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examinations. Chuckling, Cao Xiong looks gleeful. Poaching students from me publicly, do you think that I won't report this to the Central Education Bureau? This isn't just a normal bicker but a public poaching of a student. Although the academy encourages teachers to freely choose their students, they do not pardon this kind of snatching of students. The moment it happens, not only will it affect the relationships between the teacher, it could also affect the culture of the school. Poaching students? You speak too heavily. At most, let's have a fair competition advising her by the side. We will let the student choose by herself. Do you dare to agree to it? Cao Xiong says. Chapter 13, Shameless Student. Upon hearing those words, the ice-cold Shen Bairu smiles faintly. Although this roundabout manner of insulting another means nothing on earth, it is an incomparably novel concept here. Seeing the expression on his goddess, Zhang Bin feels that he is being mocked. His face flushes in a moment and pales in the next. However, in front of the female goddess, he is determined to uphold decorum, thus he doesn't dare to attack Zhang Xuan directly. Why? Is there something wrong with my words? Suppressing his anger, Zhang Bin sneers. There isn't a single person who doesn't know what your standards are in the entire academy. This fatty came to my classroom previously. Fat like a pig, he only knows how to defend and nothing else. The strength behind his fist is only a mere 15 kilograms. He must be either the first or second from the bottom in the entrance examination, so if he isn't trash, what is he? Even though he can't teach Zhang Xuan a lesson physically, he is resolute to strike a blow onto him through his words. The first from the bottom in the entrance examination. Zhang Xuan only paid attention to the emperor bloodline and wasn't aware of such a situation. He turns around to look at the fatty. Who says that I am the first from the bottom? The fatty retorts confidently. Then, he scratches his head in embarrassment. I am only the 9,997th place. 9,997th place? Only? A faint spell afflicts Zhang Xuan and he almost vomits blood. Hongshan Academy only accepts 10,000 students every year. Although it recruits so many people every year, there are always several students who fail to report due to several reasons. 9,997th place, it is almost as good as being in the last place, alright. Besides, with such a low ranking, how can you still be so confident? Zhang Xuan feels as though he hasn't fully woken up. It can't be that you accept anyone who is a student. Zhang Bin sneers once again. Then, flinging his sleeves, an arrogant look appears on his face as he declares, I have a clear requirement when accepting students. I don't accept anyone who is below the 500th in rank. The teacher who is first from the bottom and the student who is first from the bottom. How compatible? Haha. Are you done talking? Get your avorite ovals at novepoundin.com. Towards his mockery, Zhang Xuan simply shakes his head. Now that you are done, you can leave. Previously, he has examined Yuan Tao clearly with the Library of Heaven's Path. That fatty is a wandering cultivator, so it is normal for him to know no cultivation technique and martial arts. As long as he finds a way to activate his emperor bloodline, his cultivation would definitely soar by leaps and bounds. You. If it was someone else, being mocked to such an extent, they would definitely be trembling from anger. However, this fellow doesn't even bat an eyelid to it. For Zhang Bin's attack to land on thin air, his face turns even uglier. It seems that a rotten wood cannot be carved. After a cold humph, Zhang Bin looks at Shen Bairu beside him and says, Bairu Laoshi, let's go. If we stay with this kind of trash for too long, we would be contaminated by them. Hearing Zhang Bin's direct sarcasm, Shen Bairu frowns and chooses not to leave with him. Instead, she turns around, Zhang Xuan Laoshi. Her voice is like an aureole, clear and enchanting, stirring up complex emotions in its listeners. Zhang Xuan didn't expect that the academy's prettiest teacher would initiate a conversation with him. He is taken aback. Although the previous time you didn't score so well for your teacher qualification examination, do not give up on yourself. Work hard and you will find yourself rewarded in the end. Shen Bairu nods her head. From her point of view, Zhang Xuan accepting one of the worst students means that he doesn't hold any hope and has given up on himself. Towards this ex-pursuer of hers, even if she doesn't fancy him, she doesn't hope to see him wallowing in his failures. Thank you for your advice. He knows that the other party is truly concerned for him. Zhang Xuan nods his head and explains, this student, although he might not be anything now, he could turn out to be a jade. As long as I guide him properly, it isn't impossible for him to shine. Shen Bairu doesn't speak any further and instead starts to walk away. She thinks that Zhang Xuan's explanation is only an excuse. Given Yuan Tao's size and his lack of basic knowledge at his age, there is bound to be a limit to his future achievements. Darn it! Seeing the goddess of his heart talking to the worst teacher in the academy and even motivating him, Zhang Bin's face distorts savagely. The inferno in his heart rages as he stares at Zhang Xuan coldly before following behind Shen Bairu. Bairu, it is better for you to avoid contact with this kind of people, it will sully your flawless disposition. Zhang Laoshi, I am a little tired today and would like to rest. I hope that you do not follow me. Before Zhang Bin could finish his words, Shen Bairu turns around to leave. Damn it, damn it. Zhang Xuan, just you wait. I will definitely get back at you for this. He watches as his goddess walk further and further away before she disappears from sight. At this moment, he has already directed all of his anger towards Zhang Xuan. In his opinion, if it wasn't for that inauspicious fellow, the goddess would definitely have dinner with him. How could it be possible for her to turn around to leave? Since you have acknowledged me as your teacher, you must know where my classroom is. After the both of them left, Zhang Xuan turns his attention away from them and calls out to the fatty. Great. The fatty hurriedly stands up and smiles at him. Teacher, now that I am your student, can you tell me which teacher are you in the academy? Hearing his words, Zhang Xuan grabs his forehead. This fellow, to think that he acknowledged whichever teacher he manages to set his eyes upon, not even clarifying Zhang Xuan's identity beforehand. I am Zhang Xuan. Zhang Xuan says. Zhang Xuan Laoshi? The Zhang Laoshi who scored first from the bottom for the teacher qualification examination, not to mention a 0. At this moment, Fatty finally realizes who he acknowledged as his teacher. The fats on his body tremble as his lip twitches. All he is lacking now is tears. That's me. Zhang Xuan nods his head. Ah. That, Zhang Laoshi. Fatty scratches his head. Seeing how I am weak and dim-witted, not to mention fat, why don't you take me out from your lessons? Zhang Xuan. Teacher, I am being serious over here. The two teachers from a moment ago have also said it. If you don't expel me from your tutelage, your reputation would be solid. I am afraid of pulling you down with me. Fatty continues. I am not afraid of being pulled down. Besides, now that we have verified our relationship through the identity token, I only have a sentence for you. You will live as my student and die as my student? Stop talking about useless things here. Zhang Xuan waves his hand. Fatty's face distorts and he is on the verge of crying. Due to his weakness, he wanted to acknowledge a good student so that his future could be boundless. However, never would he dream that the last place student would be paired with the last place teacher. Why is my life so difficult? Alright, this is my classroom. Now, claim your bedding and remember to come to lessons punctually tomorrow. Zhang Xuan says impatiently. This classroom? Looking at the size of the classroom, Fatty finds himself on the verge of tears yet again. Even the locations where he underwent the entrance examination previously were much bigger than this. A classroom of this size probably can't hold many students. Teacher, if I don't come tomorrow, would you expel me? Fatty is still bearing illusions in his mind. Expel? That I won't. However, I will throw you into the lake which you wanted to jump into to feed the turtles. Zhang Xuan nods his head seriously. Didn't I say it? You will live as my student and die as my student? Relax, I will fulfill the role of my teacher and bury you properly. Teacher. Before Zhang Xuan could finish his words, he was interrupted by Fatty. With a serious face and unwavering will in his eyes, he says, what time do we start lessons tomorrow? I will come in advance to clean the classroom. It is my honor to meet such a great teacher. In the future, no matter who wants to admit me as their disciple, I will reject them firmly and reprimand them. Zhang Xuan. Initially, Zhang Xuan thought that he himself is shameless. However, he didn't expect that his student would be even more shameless than he is. Chapter 14, Cultivation Technique. Chapter 14, Cultivation Technique. Translator, Staff Cleric Editor, Third Pole and Tortex. It wasn't easy for Zhang Xuan arrange everything properly with Fatty and send him away. Only then did he realize that the sun is already setting in the west and it is about to turn dark soon. Looks like I only have 5 students. He shakes his head. Today is the last day to recruit students. Judging from the current time, it is probably the end of the recruitment. Initially, he thought that he wouldn't even recruit a student. He didn't expect that he would end up pulling 5 students in. For a teacher who scored the worst in the teacher qualification examination, it isn't a bad result. Closing the doors to the classroom, Zhang Xuan follows the path back to his room based on his memory. As a teacher of the academy, he has a dormitory room of his own. However, it is only a small room of around a dozen meters square large. Soon, he reaches the dormitory. Pushing the door open and looking at the sight within, he couldn't help but sigh. His previous self really had it bad. Not mentioning how the room is small, it is extremely humid. Mold is growing on some of the bedding and such. He really has no idea how that fellow managed to survive like this. Let's forget about this first. Lessons are going to start tomorrow, so I have to first ascertain my level of cultivation and try training a bit. Since he isn't hungry now anyway, Zhang Xuan follows the method he recalls in his memories and sits with crossed legs on the bed. As a transcender, although he has inherited the memories of his previous self and isn't foreign to cultivating, he is still quite excited at the thought of growing stronger. After he is done with the recruitment, it is about time for him to solidify his cultivation. No matter what, in this world, strength reigns supreme. The Library of Heaven's Path is capable of identifying others' Mingmen and flaws, allowing him to easily break through the defenses of opponents of the same level. However, if his enemy is much stronger than he is, even if he is able to identify the gaps in their attacks, he is unable to keep up with them speed-wise. Before he could injure his opponent, he might already have been severed into multiple pieces like a lab rat. Thus, even though the Library of Heaven's Path is formidable, it doesn't ensure his invincibility. If he wants to become stronger, cultivation is the way to go. The cultivation technique of my previous self is called the Hongshan 9-Dan formula. It is a skill created by the founder of Hongshan Academy. The skill consists of 9 dans, with each of the dan corresponding to the cultivation realm of the cultivator. He recalls the skill memorized in his head. There are 9 dans to a cultivator and every level opens up a new realm. The higher one climbs, the harder it is to cultivate. Hongshan 9-Dan formula is one of the most common cultivation technique in Hongshan Academy. It also consists of 9 dans which correspond to the cultivator's 9 dans. Right now, I am the weakest of all of the teachers in the academy. In the academy, almost all teachers have reached fighter 4 dan, leaving him to be the only 3 dan. Thus, he has to train harder to catch up to them. Following the exhalation method in his memory, he focuses his concentration. In an instant, countless bright particles appear before him as he slowly inhales and exhales while absorbing them. Gradually, the Qiankun within his danshan enriches. After cultivating for an unknown period of time, Zhang Xuan opens his eyes and shakes his head. This is way too slow. Even though he has inherited the memories of his previous self, his consciousness still remains that of an earthling. He finds it difficult to be sitting still to cultivate for long periods of time. Especially upon viewing the process of the gathering of Qiankun, he feels even more helpless. Gathering Qiankun refers to the action of pulling and gathering in the spirit particles in the air and suppressing them together. Just like the stacking of logs, they would be accumulated to form a river. This is an extremely huge project. There are some cultivators who persist in it every day without fail and fills up their danshan within 3 years to break into higher realms. It is a work that requires accumulation over time. To cultivate so blandly for multiple years? You might as well kill him. Oh, that's right. Although the Hongshan 9-Dan formula is the most popular cultivation technique in the academy, it isn't the strongest one. I can use the Library of Heaven's Path to seek out its flaws and find a way to correct them. Once I correct the flaws, won't my training be much more efficient? A thought pops into his mind. There are different tiers to cultivation technique as well. Better cultivation technique allows one to cultivate faster while the weak ones cause one to cultivate at a slower pace. Could it be that the better cultivation technique has fewer flaws, causing the difference between the two? Other people might be unable to improve their cultivation technique, but Zhang Xuan is different. With the Library of Heaven's Path in hand, he could make use of it to seek out the flaws in it and think of a way to correct them. If he were to create a cultivation technique where even the Library of Heaven's Path is unable to find a flaw in, won't his cultivation speed soar significantly? At this point, Zhang Xuan stands up, places the Hongshan 9-Dan formula in his palm and starts flipping through it. Who? Just as he expected, the library in his mind jolts and a book with the exact same name appears in it. Opening the book gently, he realized that there are countless flaws on the Hongshan 9-Dan formula on it, numbering more than 1,000. This is the skill that I was training with a moment ago? Zhang Xuan is shocked. Just a simple 3-Dan and there are countless flaws in it, isn't this way too much? It is just like eating a vegetable full of worms. Zhang Xuan feels that it is already incredible that his cultivation hasn't disappeared after training in that skill. What about the other cultivation techniques? As a teacher, there are quite a few books in his room: Supreme 4 Inscription, Heaven Meridian Technique, Lotus Acupoint Breakthrough Might. As he casually picks each of them and flips through them, the library would automatically compile a corresponding book on it that records all kinds of flaws in the skill. For these skills, the flaws that are recorded exceeds 3,000. That is even scarier than the Hongshan 9-Dan formula. Won't I die out of exhaustion while searching for a way to correct all of those? After taking a look, Zhang Xuan feels like he is about to go mad from frustration. It is hard to find a correct path when there are more than 1,000 flaws in a secret manual. It is like having 1,000 different paths before you and each of which have countless divergence to them. Even if the Library of Heaven's Path is capable of ascertaining whether the path is right or not, finding the most accurate path would definitely tire him to death. Right now, my cultivation is at Fighter 3 Dan Qiankun Pinnacle, just a little bit away from breaking through. Right now, I only have to find the flaw in the secret manual regarding this aspect and correct it. Upon seeing the countless mistakes in Hongshan 9-Dan formula, he knows that it is impossible for him to resolve them in a short period of time. Thus, he flips the manual to the very last page. It is difficult to train in the Fighter 3 Dan, but the last step to breaking through is significantly easier. As he expected, there are only 10 flaws in this page. Error in the method in sensing the spirit in the air, error in manipulating the flow of spirit particles, error in guiding the gathered spirit to flow through the Yang-Wei meridian. The 10 flaws that written here are detailed clearly. The Library of Heaven's Path only records flaws, it doesn't list methods to resolving them. It isn't easy to search for the correct path one should take. Right. It seems that the paths of the Fighter 3 Dan breakthrough method in the other books have different flaws from this. A thought flashes through his mind as he recalls what is written in the other secret manuals. Thus, he flips through the other books to view the portion of it about breaking through the Qianqi realm. It is indeed as he recalls. Although there are mistakes in those as well, their errors are in different aspects. If it isn't demarcated as an error, then it should be correct. Zhang Xuan's eyes lit up. He immediately grabs pen and paper and jots down the correct portion of each of them. Soon, a new cultivation method appears before him. Let's see if there are errors in this. With a faint smile, he grabs the book that he had just written and the Library of Heaven's Path jolts once more. A similar book appears, just that this time, there's only one error in it. After researching for a moment longer, he corrects this final error and uses the Library of Heaven's Path to ascertain once again. Indeed, all of the errors have been filled up and it is in its perfect form. This is the most precise method to break through Fighter 3 Dan realm. Let me give it a try. Looking at the contents he wrote himself, Zhang Xuan nods his head excitedly. He hurriedly gets into position and starts to cultivate. Relax my body and allow my pores to open, as though I am sinking into a tub of spirit air. Every single pore of mine is a complete life form by itself, breathing by its own will. Said. Cultivating through this method, although he isn't very used to it at the start, it didn't take long for him to feel the spirit in the surrounding surge into him. The spirit absorbed by a single pore may not be much, but when all of the pores of a body are undergoing the same process concurrently, the absorption speed is one to behold. The spirit in the air gathers like a flowing river, forming a giant flood in his body and rushes towards his danshan. Boom! An explosion echoes from his spirit sea. Initially, he was just a step away to breaking through his bottleneck. At the current moment, Qianqi overflows from his danshan and courses through his entire body, enriching his muscles and bones, generating a refreshing sensation. Fire 4 Dan, Pigu realm. This is too fast. Zhang Xuan's eyes widen. Based on what is recorded on the Hongshan 9 Dan formula, he would need to take at least 3 to 5 months to break through, and this would still require a certain amount of luck. After slightly modifying the skill to correct the flaws on it, how long did he take in comparison? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? Probably, he didn't even take 3 minutes to successfully achieve a breakthrough. Furthermore, despite only correcting the breakthrough method for Fighter 3 Dan Pinnacle, the purity of the Qianqi he absorbed is incomparably pure, containing much more power as compared to the ones he cultivated in the past. If the Qianqi he cultivated in the past is sloppy mud, then this wave is a clear spring water without any impurities in it. There are also different tiers to Qianqi, superior, intermediate and inferior. The higher the quality, the more clear it would be and the further one would be able to climb in the future. In the past, the Qianqi he cultivates is murky and probably of inferior quality. The ones he are cultivating is so clear that you could see through it. Most probably, it is Qianqi of superior quality. Didn't they say that, if one wants to cultivate superior Qianqi, they would require a god or saint cultivation technique? There are different tiers to a cultivation technique as well, namely god, saint, spirit, phantom and mortal. In each tier, they are classified further into inferior, intermediate, superior and pinnacle. Based on rumors among cultivators, one would need at least a saint cultivation technique in order to cultivate superior Qianqi. Hongshan 9 Dan formula is the lowest mortal cultivation technique, so how could it cultivate Qianqi of such quality? It is the Library of Heaven's Path. Zhang Xuan clenches his fist. Alwest chptrs on n.o.vlin.cm. He is still cultivating the Hongshan 9 Dan formula, but as he managed to avoid the mistakes recorded on it and followed the correct path upwards, he is able to gather superior Qianqi. It seems that, what is recorded on the Library of Heaven's Path is accurate. The Hongshan 9 Dan formula is indeed too far from perfection. If so, with the help of the Library of Heaven's Path, could it be possible for me to create a book of saint or even god cultivation technique? Zhang Xuan's eyes twinkle. Chapter 15, Heaven's Path Divine Art. Translator, Staff Cleric Editor, Third Pole and Tortex. Needless to say Hongshan Academy, even those top sects might not even have god or saint cultivation technique. Besides, even they have it, it is hidden deep inside the sect and normal people would be unable to obtain it. What he wants to do is to create such a skill so that his training would be more efficient so as to hasten the rate of the rise of his cultivation by leaps and bounds. I don't have any 4-dan cultivation method. Let me go to the teacher compendium pavilion to take a look. Practicing the Hongshan 9-dan formula, the cultivator can only retrieve the secret manual for the next realm after breaking through their current realm. At this moment, he only has the cultivation method for 3-dan. He has yet to see the one for 4-dan. Walking out, the sun hasn't set for too long and there are still quite a few passers-by on the road. The bright moonlight reflects on the surface of the pavement, dyeing it with a layer of silver. A few couples who had just tasted the forbidden fruit are snuggling under the tree as they whisper sweet nothings to one another. Even so, the surroundings have a serene atmosphere. Zhang Xuan didn't bother himself with these. Instead, he hastens his footsteps and soon, a giant pavilion appears before him. The compendium pavilion is split into 2 main sectors, teacher and student. Within it lies the compendium of all kinds of secret manuals and cultivation techniques. It is one of the most important locations in the entire academy. Elder Mo. Walking to the entrance, he bows to an elderly who is sitting at a proximity from the great door. Elder Mo is one of the guardians of the compendium pavilion. It is unknown what realm he has reached, but it is said that he is ranked among the top in the academy in terms of his strength. However, as he hasn't fought for many years, no one could tell his actual strength for sure. You are here. You have reached fighter 4-dan. Elder Mo looks over and strokes his sparse beard. It is just luck. Zhang Xuan doesn't try to conceal the fact that he has reached fighter 4-dan. Good, good. Train harder, the academy still needs young blood like you. Elder Mo nods his head in satisfaction. Yes. Zhang Xuan doesn't continue speaking and instead, lifts his leg to walk into the room. The moment he leaves, Elder Mo shakes his head and laments, he is a good child, just that he is lacking a little in talent and is slightly too slow in his cultivation. Other cultivators take around 2 years to break through fighter 3-dan whereas Zhang Xuan took a whole 3 years to do so. His talent is indeed super. Upon reaching fighter 4-dan, if he were to train properly, he should still be able to become an average teacher. Just that, I hope he doesn't score too badly for him teacher qualification examination the next time. After muttering for a bit, Elder Mo doesn't go on any further and shuts his eyes once more. Zhang Xuan is one of the more polite ones among the numerous young teachers. He doesn't really like him, but neither does he dislike him. It is just that he finds it lamentable for him to be lacking in talent. Oblivious to the mutterings of Elder Mo, Zhang Xuan walks into the compendium pavilion. Although the Hongshan Academy's compendium pavilion is of significant size, nowhere paling in comparison to the working location of his previous life, it is still much smaller than the library of Heaven's Path in his mind. The two aren't even on the same level. He walks quickly to the cultivation technique section and to the 4th row of it. Indeed, the Hongshan 9-dan formula 4-dan cultivation technique is in here. Reaching out to grab it, he casually flips through it. Who? A similar secret manual appears in his mind. Taking a look, it is around the same as the one for 3-dan, there are more than 1,000 flaws. There are other secret manuals here as well. Let me take a look at them as well. After the prior experience with breaking through, Zhang Xuan doesn't focus on the flaws in it and instead looks towards the bookshelf before him. On the bookshelf of the 4th row, there is an amazing amount of different kinds of cultivation technique manuals. They are all cultivation techniques for 4-dan and there is quite a plenty of notes and explanations in them left behind by predecessors. Just by a rough look, there are around a few thousand of them. If it is someone else, their eyes would definitely blur from the sight. After all, there are so many books with countless notes left in them. Furthermore, some of the theories for the cultivation techniques are at ends with each other, so it is hard to gauge whether which one is the right one. If one were to randomly cultivate without knowing better, it is possible for them to go berserk. However, Zhang Xuan is different. Possessing the library of Heaven's Path, he is capable of telling which one is the right one. He doesn't hesitate to grab a book and flip through it. Who? A similar book appears in his mind. Zhang Xuan doesn't stop and picks up the next one. He isn't browsing through them nor picking them. Rather, he is trying to increase the number of books in the library of Heaven's Path so that he could derive a more precise cultivation method. Hualala! The sound of flipping pages fills the entire room. A weak will. Impatient and unrealistic. Hearing those words, Elder Mo frowns. Alwest chptrs on n.o.vlin.cm. Since Zhang Xuan has already chosen to cultivate in the Hongshan 9-dan formula, then he shouldn't think about any other skills. He should make use of the time to copy the formula for the 4-dan so that he can analyze it and start training. Although it is possible to make use the strengths of others to make up for the flaws of one, the more miscellaneous knowledge one reads, the easier it is for one to get impatient and rash. In the end, it is a small thing if he achieves nothing in the end. If things go wrong, it is very possible for him to go berserk and ruin his cultivation. 30 years ago, a talented genius blessed with great talents who thought he is much greater than others insisted on looking through the various cultivation techniques to create an ultimate one tailored to him. In the end, due to reading too many manuals, he became uncertain of the route he should walk on and his cultivation went berserk. As an individual, he became insane as well. Being greedy would cause indigestion. This is the absolute truth and reality. For him to take 3 years to break through Zhengqi realm, his talent is apparent. With such talent, he should just obediently cultivate 4 dan of Hongshan 9 dan formula. Yet, he chooses to flip through other manuals. Is he just trying to seek for something thrilling? With one look, one could tell he is an unrealistic fellow. The good impression that he holds towards Zhang Xuan disappears without a trace. Putting on a show just to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. Putting on a show just to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. After a cold harumph, he realizes that Zhang Xuan is just casually flipping through without taking a careful look at them. Elder Mo's eyebrows knit even closer together and he feels a little disgusted with him. If one were to study those manuals closer, even though they are being unrealistic, they would still obtain some knowledge on them. However, this fellow simply casually flips through it and given the speed he flips at, even Elder Mo himself is unable to look through the contents properly. If so, what can a lad who had just reached fighter 4 dan see? Now, he is truly putting on a show to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. The Academy's culture is really degenerating, getting worse with each passing generation. After those words, he shuts his eyes, refusing to bother with this unrealistic fellow anymore. I'm done. His pace of browsing is extremely fast. He is able to finish flipping through a normal manual in just 1 or 2 breaths. In 2 hours, he finished browsing through all of the cultivation manuals and thousands of identical books had appeared in the library of Heaven's Path. Time to return to assist them. Knowing that his aim has been achieved, he smiles and walks towards the outside without hesitation. You aren't going to copy any notes? Seeing him leaving empty-handed, Elder Mo couldn't resist asking. Even if he is unrealistic, he should at least copy the secret manual so that he can analyze it after returning to his living quarters. Coming and leaving empty-handed, are you coming here to play? It's okay, I am actually just taking a casual look. Unsure about what the other party is thinking about, Zhang Xuan smiles and takes his leave. Taking a casual look? Frivolous. The Academy should punish this fellow. How can such a frivolous person be a teacher? Elder Mo waves his hand in anger. Cultivation manuals are the core of every cultivator and every cultivator should hold some respect towards them. However, this fellow only came to take a look and returns back after casually flipping through them. His behavior is unacceptable. Looks like he should have a talk with the principal to deal with these teachers who are sullying the culture of the Academy. Returning back to his living quarters, Zhang Xuan takes out pen and papers and flips through the Hongshan 9 dan formula 4 dan manual to copy down the correct portions of it. Then, he takes out another book and copies down the correct portions as well. After flipping through a few of them, Zhang Xuan rubs his temples. It is actually quite troublesome and tiring to flip through a few thousand books like that. It isn't as simple as he thought it would be. Just when he is thinking about how he could hasten his pace, his mind suddenly jolts again. The thousands of books that was just compiled in the library of Heaven's Path crumple and slowly merge as one. Weng! The few thousand books merge together completely with a crisp sound to form a single book. There isn't any name on the book. Zhang Xuan casually flips through it. This is the compilation of the correct routes in the few thousand secret manuals. After taking a look at it, Zhang Xuan's face flashes red from excitement. Previously, he was still troubled by how he could find the correct route out of a few thousand of books. It would have been an arduous task taking a long period of time. Never in his dreams would he expect that the library would compile it automatically. This book, there isn't a single flaw in it. The nameless book is the compilation of all of the correct cultivation route and there isn't a single flaw in it. The contents of it is no longer Hongshan 9 dan formula or any one of the individual manual that was compiled into it. It could be said to be something no one has ever seen before. Since it is the correct method chosen and compiled by the Library of Heaven's Path, let's call it Heaven's Path Divine Art. A thought flashes through his mind and he decides on the name of the nameless manual. Weng. As though sensing his thoughts, the empty cover trembles and 4 words appear on it. Heaven's Path Divine Art. Chapter 16, Cleansing Muscles and Bones. Let me give it a try. After obtaining a cultivation technique without any flaws, Zhang Xuan doesn't hesitate to follow the method recorded in the Heaven's Path Divine Art and starts to meditate. The pores on his body widens as he absorbs spirit energy from the air into his body. Fighter 4 Dan. 1 Dan Juxi, 2 Dan Danshan, 3 Dan Chenki, 4 Dan Pigu. Juxi realm, cultivators would learn innate breathing and sensing of spirit in the air. Also, they would gain the ability to look into their body and control the flow of spirit energy in their body with their mind. Danshan realm, the opening up of a cultivator's danshan to allow it to hold spirit energy as well as to reform his body, turning a normal human into a true fighter. Chenki realm, the gathering of the spirit energy in the danshan to create Chenki. Pigu realm, the Chenki-filled danshan will overflow and enrich one's body, causing the cultivator's physical body to become powerful. The capabilities of their organs will also be strengthened, thus turning them into true experts. The first 3 dans of a fighter are the building of foundations. Only at the 4th Dan does one the result of one's cultivation truly reflects on one's body, causing one to stray away from illnesses and become stronger. The cultivation method of Hongshan 9 Dan manual is to make use of the Chenki overflowing from the danshan to nourish one's body, thus reforming and tempering one's bones, muscles, tendons and skin. However, the Heaven's Path Divine Art is different. It uses the spirit energy from the surrounding to nourish one's body while having the Chenki in one's body overflow to the other parts of the body at the same time. Go 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 go. The stream of spirit energy flows through his veins towards his entire body. The Chenki would mend and fill up the incomplete parts as it flows through his veins. Gauge he. Gauge he. It didn't take long for the infusion of both spirit energy and Chenki to strengthen his bones and muscles. It feels as though it has been tempered with concentrated fire as it turns clear, emitting a warm glow. Boom! After the Chenki circulates around his body for an unknown number of times, his body suddenly jolts and he feels as though he has broken through a certain bottleneck. A surge of relaxation gushes through his body. Previously, his body feels as though it has been bound by some shackles, but now, his entire body feels light and he has perfect control over every single motion of his. It feels as though he has been broken through his cocoon to be reborn as a butterfly. Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm. I have finished cultivating in this realm? Opening his eyes, Zhang Xuan is still in a state of disbelief. The sign of breaking through the Pigu realm is the destruction of the shackles of one's body, allowing one to ascend into greater heights. How long has he been training? 2 hours? 4 hours? Pungent. Curious, he looks at his body and realizes that there is a layer of filth on the surface of his skin. Pigu realm is the nourishment of one's body using Chenki, expelling the impurities within one's body and cleansing one's muscles and bones, thus reforming their body. From birth, humans would ingest all kinds of food for survival. As a result, they would accumulate more and more impurities in their body. In the Pigu realm, through the nourishment of Chenki, one cleanses their body of impurities and only then are they able to break through the shackles of their body and return back to nature. I have long heard of the Pigu realm, but I have never seen anyone who can expel so much impurities. Smelling the pungent smell from his body, Zhang Xuan couldn't take it anymore. He grabs a pail and cleans himself while muttering under his breath. Fire 4 Dan Pigu realm is the cleansing of one's muscles and bones. It is already not bad for one to strengthen their body just by a small bit in one sitting. He has never heard of a person expelling so much impurities that their entire body would stink from it. Very quickly, he finished cleaning himself. At this moment, Zhang Xuan suddenly realizes that his body is as clear as a jade and as smooth as a mirror. All of the scars which he accumulated from his previous training sessions have disappeared without a trace. Right now, he is just like a newborn infant, perhaps even smoother than a newborn infant. My Chenki. Surprised by the changes in his body, his attention turns to his danshan. His entire body trembles. The murky Chenki that was in his danshan previously has turned to become as clear and water and it is emitting refreshing fragrance. Without a doubt, it is definitely superior Chenki. Not only is my body enhanced, even the quality of my Chenki has improved. This Heaven's Path Divine Art is too powerful. Zhang Xuan is taken aback. To break through Pigu realm, others have to continually nourish their body for at least a few years. However, he took less than 4 hours to break through the realm directly. Not only so, the quality of his Chenki has been refined. Exactly what kind of secret manual has the Library of Heaven's Path created? Webnovel chapters are published on novel.com. This is way too powerful. Let me test my strength. Upon breaking through Pigu realm, one would reach Fighter 5 Dan Dingali. The moment a cultivator steps into this realm, they will possess one ding of strength. He walks over to the strength measuring rock pillar which is just a few dozen meters away from the dormitory. This kind of strength measuring rock pillar can be found around the academy so as to allow the students to measure their strength at any time and anywhere. Upon reaching Fighter 5 Dan Dingley, one would possess 1 ding of strength, which is around 1,000 kilograms. This kind of strength already exceeds the limits of an ordinary human and is on par with horses and bulls. After practicing the heaven's path divine art, Zhang Xuan's body has been reformed and he has broken through the Pigu realm. This is an opportunity for him to test how much strength he possesses. Will it be like in the rumors that he would possess 1 ding of strength? Gathering and controlling his breath, the sole of the feet clutches onto the ground. Suddenly, his knees spring forth and his entire body immediately takes on the shape of a giant bow while his arm bursts forth from him like an arrow. Peng! Peng! His fist strikes on the stone pillar and a glint of light flow on it. 5 ding! A number appears on it. How is this possible? Zhang Xuan narrows his eyes and a dumbfounded look covers his entire face. Is this for real? For a normal Dingley primary stage, one would possess 1 ding of strength. In the intermediate stage, one would possess 2 ding of strength. In the advanced stage, 3 ding of strength and in the pinnacle, 4 ding of strength. Yet, despite barely breaking through the Pigu realm to Dingley realm, he actually possesses 5 ding of strength. What is going on? Isn't this too exaggerated? It must be due to the nourishment of my body by the heaven's path divine art and the superior Qianqi in my body. After a short moment, Zhang Xuan recovers from the shock and infers. He is very clear that he isn't a genius. The only explanation for it is the heaven's path divine art which he has just cultivated with. Not only does this cultivation technique temper and reforms his physical body and cleanses his Qianqi, raising it to superior quality, it also increases his strength significantly, thus granting him the strength beyond that of Dingley pinnacle expert despite just reaching the Dingley realm. Fearsome. There is only a few esteemed teacher in the academy who reached Fighter 5 Dan. In the academy, only some of the higher level teachers possess the strength of a Fighter 5 Dan Dingley realm. People like Xiao Xiwenji and him could never hope to reach such heights. Now that I have reached this level, I should go and look for the cultivation technique for 5 Dan. While his strength soars rapidly, a problem arises. The multitude of 4 Dan cultivation techniques that he flipped through in the teacher compendium pavilion previously are useless now. If he wants to continue cultivating, he has to look for 5 Dan cultivation techniques. Right now, it isn't too late. The teacher compendium pavilion shouldn't be closed yet. Scratching his head, Zhang Xuan walks over the compendium pavilion once more. In order to prevent people from getting greedy and hasty in their training, the academy imposed a rule that one can only view cultivation techniques that correspond to the level of their cultivation. It didn't take long for Zhang Xuan to arrive at the compendium pavilion once more. Why are you here again? Seeing that it's the same guy from a moment ago, the custodian, Elder Mo, frowns. This impractical fellow just left the pavilion not long ago. Why is he back again? Elder Mo, I would like to view the cultivation technique for 5 Dan. Zhang Xuan is a little awkward. He can't possibly say that he broke through after leaving for just a short moment. If he were to say that, the other fellow would either kill him or kidnap him to examine him like a lab rat. There isn't much of a change in Qianqi between Pigu realm and Dingley realm. As long he doesn't manipulate his Qianqi, it is difficult for even experts to tell the difference. Elder Mo may be strong, but it is inconceivable to him that this youth might have broken to greater heights in the short moment he was gone. 5 Dan cultivation technique. What do you want it for? Elder Mo's face darkens. His final sliver of appreciation towards his fellow disappears. He didn't copy any notes on the 4 Dan cultivation technique and didn't try to cultivate it. Yet, he is back now to look at the 5 Dan? What kind of joke is this? Elder Mo, it is like this. Today, I accepted a student and his parent asked me some questions about 5 Dan cultivation. I was unable to answer it, causing him to look down on him. Thus, I would like to take a look and derive an answer to it. This way, I would be able to deal with these questions in the future. Zhang Xuan has already thought of an excuse beforehand. Some parents are indeed troublesome to deal with. Hearing this explanation, Elder Mo nods his head. With a solemn expression, he says, you can take a look, but do not cultivate them by any means. If you try to cultivate 5 Dan without even breaking through 4 Dan, even deities would be unable to save you when you go berserk. Yes, I understand that. Zhang Xuan hurriedly replies. All right, enter. Elder Mo waves his hand and closes his eyes. The 5 Dan cultivation technique are on the very last row. Yes. Zhang Xuan hurriedly enters. Hypocritical. Vain. After entering, Elder Mo adds 2 more words to his evaluation of Zhang Xuan. Chapter 17, Assassination. X. So what if the parents ask about it? You are the lowest level teacher, it is normal that you can't answer their questions. So, in order to put on a show, you specially came here to view the 5-dan cultivation technique. If this isn't being hypocritical and vain, what is it? Tomorrow, I will look for the principal and have this unrealistic fellow expelled. Scoffing coldly in his heart, old Mo's mind is resolute. Leaving such a vain fellow who doesn't cultivate properly in the academy will just sully the culture of the academy. Zhang Xuan doesn't know that the 2 meetings with Elder Mo have placed him in the expulsion list of the latter. If he were to know, he would have no idea whether he should burst into laughter or weep in tears. Those words that he said are only excuses. In reality, his cultivation has reached such a level. He can't possibly stop training due to the lack of cultivation technique. Very quickly, he found the very last row of the cultivation technique section. Even the most famous and powerful teacher in the academy is Fighter 5-dan. The moment one breaks through into the 6-dan Pixu realm, they would automatically become an elder in the academy. This is only the teacher compendium pavilion, so there aren't any records on the 6-dan cultivation techniques. Thus, the 5-dan cultivation techniques are placed on the very last shelf. There are significantly less 5-dan manuals than 4-dan. There are around 2,000 to 3,000 cultivation technique secret manuals on the 4-dan, whereas there are only 1,000 on the 5-dan. However, it is also a natural occurrence when one thinks about it. No matter what it is, the higher one climbs, the scarcer the resources. Although the academy has been present for a long time, there are definitely significantly less 5-dan than 4-dan in its entire history. As a result, the cultivation techniques and notes they leave behind would be fewer as well. Shaking his head, he decided not to contemplate over such matters. Zhang Xuan casually takes out a book and flipped through it. Around an hour later, the 1,000 cultivation technique secret manuals have been browsed through and the Library of Heaven's Path has compiled corresponding books to the secret manuals. After receiving what he wants, Zhang Xuan smiles faintly and bids Elder Mo farewell before walking into the distance. Seeing how he is randomly flipping and viewing the books, not even stopping in the midst of it, Elder Mo can't help but chastise him yet again in his mind. Returning back to his living quarters, Zhang Xuan follows what he did previously and searches for the correct phrases and paragraphs within the 1,000 books. As he expected, not too long later, the library compiles the 1,000 books into a single one. This time, the book isn't nameless and the 4 big words Heaven's Path Divine Art is written on it. He starts to cultivate again. Fighter 5-dan Dingali realm is an extension of the Pigu realm. The purpose of this realm is simple, it is to temper the chenki of the cultivator to his body. The difference in strength between each stage in Dingali realm is mainly due to the level of compatibility between one's chenki and their body. The greater their compatibility, the more strength one is able to exert. Reading the cultivation method for the Dingali realm in the Heaven's Path Divine Art, Zhang Xuan focuses his attention. He carefully controls the crystal clear chenki in his danshan to slowly flow in his body, going at a fixed rhythm to allow it to merge completely with his body. The Heaven's Path Divine Art is indeed worthy of being a cultivation technique compiled by the advantages of over a few thousand secret manuals. The efficiency of the cultivation method is indeed one to behold. His chenki and muscles swiftly merge together as one. The strength of his body and the compatibility of his chenki soars up exponentially. Dingali realm primary stage. Dingali realm intermediate stage. Dingali realm advanced stage. Dingali realm pinnacle. Boom! After 4 hours, his body jolts again. Zhang Xuan reopens his eyes. His eyes are filled with disbelief, this. Fighter 5-dan pinnacle. Initially, he thought he would take a long period cultivating in 5-dan. Never in his dreams would he possibly imagine that he could reach the pinnacle in 4 hours through the Heaven's Path Divine Art. To his previous self, cultivation is as difficult as trying to ascend the heavens. Yet, to Zhang Xuan who is practicing the Heaven's Path Divine Art, it is as easy as eating and drinking. Just by half a night worth of effort, he rose from Fighter 3-dan Chenki realm to Fighter 5-dan Dingali realm pinnacle. This is too exaggerated. Furthermore, if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't know the cultivation method for 6-dan, unaware of which acupoint he should break through, he might have already successfully broken through to become a 6-dan Pixu realm expert. In 6-dan Pixu realm, one opens up all of the blocked acupoints in their body. For every acupoint broken through, one's Chenki would become richer and one's prowess will rise. It is said that there are 108 acupoints in the human body. However, only 72 of these can be opened and there is an order to opening it. Everyone's body is different, thus everyone would require a different sequence in breaking through each of them to obtain the best results out of it. If one is unable to find the correct sequence, they could very possibly end up only opening 3 to 4 acupoints and be stuck there for the rest of their lives. This is just like cleaning the silt by a river. It has to be cleaned gradually from the upper stream to the lower stream. If one were to start at the center and clean towards the upper and lower stream, not only will the river not be cleaned thoroughly, it might even result in a blockage, causing one to be unable to progress further. The same logic goes for breaking through one's acupoints as well. If one doesn't find the ideal sequence, the other acupoints might get blocked and for the rest of their lives, they would be unable to open it. Thus, without a cultivation technique, Zhang Xuan doesn't dare to try to cultivate further. However, he isn't anxious. It is already unheard of to break through to great realms in a single night. He is already very satisfied with the results. Unless required, it is best for me to not to reveal my level of cultivation. As a transcender, he has read many books and watched many shows. He knows that possessing a treasure itself is a crime. He is the worst teacher in the entire academy. Yet, in a night, he suddenly gains the strength of a fighter 5-dan pinnacle. If others were to find out, won't they all rush to him? Thus, it is best for him to not tell anyone about him reaching Dingley Realm pinnacle. The more confidential it is, the better it is for him. Let me see how much strength would I hold this time. GTT the eldest VL is at .o.v.el by .go. After making a decision, Zhang Xuan walks over to the strength measuring rock pillar. While other people only possess 1 ding of strength in their Dingley primary stage, he possessed 5 ding. If so, how much strength would he hold now that he has reached the pinnacle? Peng! Light flows through the rock pillar and numbers appear on it. 8 ding. 8 ding. 8 ding of strength? That is almost the strength of a Pixu realm expert who has opened up 4 acupoints. Zhang Xuan's eyes lit up. A normal Dingley pinnacle cultivator would possess 4 ding of strength. After which, for each acupoint they break through, their strength would increase by 1 ding. Despite just being at Dingley pinnacle, he possesses the strength of 8 ding, putting him on the same level as an expert who has broken through 4 acupoints. As expected of the heaven's path divine art, incredible. Zhang Xuan is quite happy. After training for such a long period of time, he intends to find something to eat then go to sleep. However, his ears suddenly twitch. Why would someone be here at such a time? Zhang Xuan frowns. Due to an advancement in his cultivation, his hearing and sight have improved tremendously. He is able to clearly perceive the sound of someone hiding somewhere not too far from where he is, staring fixedly at his living quarters. Looks like he is surveying my room. He probably has yet to detect my presence. At this moment, Zhang Xuan isn't at his room but behind a strength measuring rock pillar which is a distance away from the dormitory. After measuring his strength, he has been suppressing his breathing, thus the other party has yet to notice his presence. Let's see who's the one finding trouble with me. He didn't expect that someone would want to deal with him right after he is done cultivating. The doubts in his mind grow. Rummaging through the memories of his previous self, although he doesn't have much accomplishment, there hasn't been a scenario where someone sneaked onto in the night to deal with him. No matter who he is, I mustn't let him identify me. Just when he was about to meet the other party, a thought suddenly flashes through his mind. The entire academy knows that he is a fighter 3-dan Qiankun realm trash. If he were to appear at this moment as a 5-dan pinnacle, the other party would definitely be scared to death. Furthermore, if the news were to spread out, there would surely be quite a few person who would look into him. Thus, no matter who the other party is, Zhang Xuan mustn't allow him to identify him. At this moment, he suddenly recalls the numerous movies he has watched back in his previous life. Thus, he tears away a fabric from his sleeves and covers his face. Who? After finishing with his preparations, making use of the darkness of the night, Zhang Xuan gradually creeps towards the other party with light footsteps. Although he has just broken through and he has never studied any footwork, the cultivation technique he is training with is the heaven's path divine art which grants him superb control over his body. Not to mention, he is also very familiar with his surroundings, so the other party didn't notice him even when he is just 10 meters behind him. At such a proximity, he could clearly see the black suit donned by the other party. His face is also covered, so it is impossible for him to make out his identity as well. Lad, if you must blame it for your daring guts to dare to lay your hands on our young mistress. Hiding behind a large tree, Zhang Xuan stares at the silhouette before him as the mutterings of the latter vaguely drift to his ears. That voice sounds familiar. Zhang Xuan's eyebrows knit tightly together. Zhang Xuan is sure that he had heard this voice before. However, he has difficulty recalling exactly when and where he heard it. Who? Just as he is trying his best to recall whether it is the memory of his previous self or after he has transcended, the silhouette before him flickers and gradually moves towards his dormitory. At the same time, with a flick of his wrist, a cold gleam shines and a sharp dagger appears on his palm. Chapter 18, Scammed. Translator, Staff Cleric Editor, Third Pole and Tortex. You want to kill me? Seeing the other party whipping out a knife, Zhang Xuan raised his eyebrows. It is fortunate that he has been cultivating and not sleeping. Otherwise, when the other party approaches him silently like this, won't he be killed for sure? Let me first ascertain who this fellow is. Zhang Xuan knows that conducting this kind of night assault would mean that he is not an individual. Perhaps, there could even be an organization behind him. If he doesn't accurately identify the one trying to murder him, even if he were to kill this assassin, there might be more coming for his life in the future. If he doesn't dig out the organization behind the assassination, he wouldn't have to dream of sleeping peacefully anymore. Who is it? Just when Zhang Xuan is pondering how he should force the man before him to confess the organization backing him, he hears a hushed voice. Unknowingly, the black-clothed man grasping the dagger is already standing at proximity to him. Zhang Xuan has never tracked anyone before. Upon seeing the other party whip out a dagger, he got nervous for a moment and leaked out his breath, causing the other party to notice his presence. To be noticed so quickly, Zhang Xuan frowns. Just when he is about to rush forward to duel with the man before him, a thought flashed through his mind and a brilliant idea pops out. I am here to kill Zhang Xuan, that useless teacher. Who are you? Suppressing his tone so as to not be identified, Zhang Xuan declares. Since the other party is here to kill him, he would be able to confuse him by saying that he is here for the same purpose. You are here to kill him? The black-clothed man is taken aback. However, looking at how Zhang Xuan conceals his face and his sneaky attitude, he couldn't help but trust his words slightly. Indeed. The academy's worst teacher will only bring harm to the students if left alone. Zhang Xuan couldn't help but turn red upon talking about himself. Oh, then you do it. I will help you keep a lookout. The black-clothed man says. Ken. An uncomprehending look appears on Zhang Xuan. He tries to push the responsibility to him. I think it would be better for you to do it. Anyway, we are here for the same motive, so it doesn't matter who does it. You do it. Actually, I have no intentions of killing him. I only wanted to punish him. However, if he were to die, that would be for the best. The black-clothed man urges him on. Punish him. Zhang Xuan is a little confused. Punish him. Then why is he holding a dagger? He couldn't resist asking, how do you want to punish him? HMPH, that fellow dares to do something disrespectful to our young mistress. I intend to chop off his thing and turn him into a eunuch. The black-clothed man proclaims furiously. Hearing those words filled with vile intentions, Zhang Xuan could only feel a breeze at his crotch and shivered unconsciously in fear. The hell? If I were to sleep peacefully tonight, I would probably be qualified to serve the emperor after this. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Who the hell are you, for you to be so vicious? Disrespectful to your young mistress? Zhang Xuan tries to recall the memories of his previous self and after his reincarnation, but he doesn't seem to have gotten into any physical relationships with any young mistresses. That Zhang Xuan, I have only heard that he is unqualified as a teacher. I have never heard of him bullying females. What is this about? Zhang Xuan couldn't resist asking. HMPH, that fellow is an animal with a human skin. What teacher, he is a beast. Our young mistress. Forget it, the more I think about it, the more furious I get. Untold rage could be felt from the suppressed voice of the black-clothed man. Zhang Xuan could only see stars. So what the hell is it about, for you to insult me as a beast? What did I do to your young mistress? Besides that, who the hell is your young mistress? It is one thing if she is pretty, but if she is ugly, isn't it too much for such a reputation to be forced on me? Why do you want to kill him? After his insults, the black-clothed man looks over. Me? Zhang Xuan didn't expect that the other party would question him. He is stunned for a moment before clenching his jaw and answering, I can't accept his actions of bullying women. You know that he bullies women? Who did he bully? The black-clothed man is alarmed. Find EW chapters on nvlbi.com. He. Zhang Xuan Haram-san says, there is no reason for me to answer your questions. That is true. Since we both have the same goals in mind, you go first. Seeing that the other party is unwilling to reveal anything, although there are doubts in his mind, he chooses to ask no further and waves his hand to gesture Zhang Xuan to go ahead. It would be better if you go first. If I were to strike first, he would be dead before you can castrate him. It would be better for you to castrate him first before I kill him. Zhang Xuan replies. That. The black-clothed man starts to hesitate. He looks at Zhang Xuan in doubt. He has started to get suspicious. How could it be possible for such a coincidence to occur? Just when he intends to castrate Zhang Xuan, another person appears to assassinate him? If it wasn't for his fear of the strength of the other party, he would have struck him unconscious by now. Why? You don't trust me? If I don't want to kill him, why would I sneak here in the middle of the night? Noticing his doubts, Zhang Xuan tries to dispel them. Hearing those words, the black-clothed man hesitates for a moment before nodding his head in agreement. That's true. It is already late at night. If the masked man isn't here to kill Zhang Xuan, why would he be here for? It isn't because I don't trust you. Since our goals align with one another, let's go together. The black-clothed man replies after pondering for a moment. He is still a little suspicious of the fellow in front of him. You are still way too careful. Rest easy, I have basic principles as a human. However, since you do not trust me, Zhang Xuan doesn't drag on the conversation and gestures, let's go together. After which, he charges forward. Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle. Seeing his movement, the black-clothed man instantly identifies his level of cultivation. He exerts his Qinggong and follows closely behind. Seeing the black-clothed man following behind him, Zhang Xuan immediately turns around to take a look. Boom! Boom! The Library of Heaven's path jolts and a book appears. The skill the other party exerted to follow him is equal to executing a battle technique. As long as one were to use a skill, the Library of Heaven's path would be able to compile a book on his flaws and thus, his background would be revealed. Zhang Xuan glances at the book. He only sees two words, Yaoha, written on the cover. This name sounds so familiar. Where have I heard of it? Zhang Xuan stares at the front cover for a moment before flipping over to the first page. Yaoha, the butler of Bayou City Lord Residence. Fighter 6 Dan Pixu Primary Stage, 8 acupoints opened. It's him. Seeing the words Bayou City, Zhang Xuan immediately recalls the identity of the man before him. Isn't this the butler from Bayou City who rushed over to threaten him when he accepted Zhao Ya as his student? No wonder his voice and name sounds so familiar. Just that. This means that the young mistress that he mentioned refers to Zhao Ya. What did I do to her for you to make the journey here just to castrate me? To dare to malign me? Even though you are stronger than me, I must teach you a lesson. The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets. If it is something his previous self did, since he has transcended over to take his place, even though he would feel wronged, he would admit it. However, the crux is that, he didn't do anything. For Yao Ha to label him with this crime when he did nothing, he is simply too vile. As such thoughts race through his mind, he continues to glance through the list. Cultivation Technique, White Jade Circulation Technique. Battle Techniques, Mystical Diagram Palm, Expert, Mystical Diagram Fist, Expert. Flaws, 16 aspects. Number 1 His Mingmen is at his bottoms and his skills are unable to guard against attacks directed at the point. Number 2. Number 3. Just as how it did previously, the book records all the flaws on this fellow. Having broken through 8 acupoints, this means his current strength is at 12 ding. If Zhang Xuan were to try to match him in a direct combat, he would definitely not be a match for him. However, so what if you are in Pixu realm? So what if you possess 12 ding of strength? If I don't teach you a lesson today, I wouldn't be called Zhang Xuan. Who? At this point, Zhang Xuan stops abruptly. What's wrong? Seeing Zhang Xuan stopping abruptly, the black-clothed man asks with a confused look. Look, an UFO. Zhang Xuan casually points. UFO? What is an UFO? The black-clothed man is taken aback and hurriedly turns around to take a look. This action reveals the Mingmen on his bottom to Zhang Xuan. Incomprehension plagues Yao Ha. He knows of butterfly, ultimatum and spy. However, what exactly is an UFO? Butterfly, Hu die vertical bar ultimatum, Tong die vertical bar spy, Jian die vertical bar UFO, flying saucer, Fei die vertical bar die is pronounced as the A. Go to hell. What Zhang Xuan has been waiting for is this opportunity. Without any hesitation whatsoever, he sends a kick filled with his wrath towards his bottom. Peng. Before the black-clothed man Yao Ha could react, his Mingmen is kicked on. He flies forward and crashes head-on with a boulder not too far away. Blood trickles down from the wound on his head. Since you are here to castrate me, should I castrate you right now? The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets. Zhang Xuan rushes forward and sits on the other party's body. He sends a couple of fists onto his face. What Pixu realm expert, what 12 ding expert? They are drawing? If you were to find their Mingmen and exploit their flaws, an unexpected assault will still lead to their deaths. You. Apparently, Yaoha didn't expect the fellow who wanted to teach Zhang Xuan a lesson along with him would suddenly attack him frenziedly. What's worse, his Mingmen is struck, causing his entire body to go stiff. He couldn't retaliate even if he wanted to. His body shivers from anger. Didn't we agree to deal with Zhang Xuan together? The heck? Where is your trust? Where are your basic principles as a human? Besides, no matter what, you are a fighter 5 Dan Dingley Pinnacle Master, an expert among experts. You should have some demeanor even in the midst of a battle. To shamelessly lie to me and launch a secret assault before riding on my face. What about battle techniques? What about crossing blows? What about your cultivation technique? Even gangsters on the street don't fight this way. He only feels wave after wave of pain on his face. Yaoha is about to go insane. At this moment, he finally knows that he have been scammed by the masked man. Furthermore, it is the worst kind of scams. King Gong. Literally translated as the art of lightweight. It refers to footwork which allows one to tread lightly, increasing one's jumping ability, running speed and dodging skills. Chapter 19, Framing. Translator, Staff Cleric Editor, Third Pole and Tortex. After a violent thrashing, Zhang Xuan finally feels the rage in his heart subsiding slightly. Lowering his head to take a look, Yaoha's mask has already fallen off in the midst of the bashing and his face is warped from taking his hits. Probably, even his own mother would be unable to recognize him in his current state. Ken. Now that anger is no longer clouding his mind, Zhang Xuan immediately grasps his current situation. This fellow is the butler of Bayou City Lord, as well as the uncle of my disciple. It is still okay for me to teach him a lesson, but I should not kill him by any means. No matter what, this fellow is still Chaoya's Uncle Yao. If Zhang Xuan were to really kill him, won't the disciple he just admitted go to waste? There would surely be zero possibility for reconciliation if that were to happen. Besides, Bayou City is reputed as the third biggest city in Tianshuan Kingdom. To be able to become the city lord of such a city, Chaoya's father should be rather powerful and holds great influence. If his butler was killed and he chooses to pursue this matter, it might be possible for him to investigate onto himself. If so, he would be in deep trouble. Being a newcomer in this world, he has yet to create a firm foothold for him to stand on, so it is best for him to keep a low profile. I mustn't let me become suspicious of me. The thought flashes through his mind. Since Yaoha cannot be killed, then Zhang Xuan have to let him go alive. For him to get beaten him in the midst of an assault against Zhang Xuan would definitely be the first person he would be suspicious of. Alright, I have the perfect scapegoat for this. If he didn't come looking for trouble today, I wouldn't have thought of him. A person flashes through Zhang Xuan's mind. That person is the man who was beside Shen Bairu earlier today, the one who kept mocking him, Sheng Bin. Anyway, that fellow is the grandson of Elder Sheng Chen. If Zhang Xuan were to push the blame to him, Yaoha wouldn't dare to take revenge even if he wanted to. In fact, it would be better if Yaoha were to take revenge. The two of them would then bite viciously onto one another. At this point, Zhang Xuan stares at the distorted face of Yaoha and deepens his voice, I have a grudge with Zhang Xuan. Earlier today, he got on my nerves and so, I intended to teach him a lesson in the night. However, if he were to be castrated by you, she would definitely suspect that I am the one who did it and a misunderstanding would arise between us. Blame this all on the fact that you met me today, as well as your untimely arrival. Only now did Yaoha know why he was thrashed. He wants to retort, but his mouth is swollen like a pair of sausages, making it impossible for him to talk. Scram! Seeing that the other party has comprehended his words, Zhang Xuan doesn't continue speaking. He stands up and kicks Yaoha's body a dozen meters away. Damn it! Hurling vulgarities towards the other party in his mind, Yaoha knows that he is in a disadvantageous situation today. Gritting his teeth, he turns away and leaves. At the same time, he carves the two main characteristics of the attacker onto his mind. Firstly, the person who beat him up had an encounter with Zhang Xuan earlier in the day and was incensed by his words or actions. Secondly, the relationship between him and Zhang Xuan should be love rivals. The woman who they are pursuing has a Bai in her name. As long as he remembers these two distinctive features, it is an easy task for him to find out who the fellow who laid his hands on him is. Only after seeing Yaoha disappear into the distance does Zhang Xuan heave a sigh of relief. He pats away the dirt on his clothes and returns back to the dormitory. This event is a great fright to him. If he didn't stay up to cultivate tonight, it would be hard to tell what would have happened. However, at least the danger is averted temporarily. The key to survival in this world, power. Sitting on the bed in his dormitory, Zhang Xuan mutters to himself. If his cultivation didn't soar today, even if he knew Yao Ha's weaknesses, he wouldn't have been a match for him. The one to suffer in the end will be him. Thus, the urgent matter at hand is for him to swiftly raise his strength. The stronger he is, the better it is. He slowly drifts into the world of dream with his mind filled with sentimentality. The next day, Zhang Xuan wakes up the moment the sky lights up. Although he has barely slept for 2 hours, not to mention how hard he had worked the previous night, he still feels refreshed without the slightest fatigue. Time to start lessons, he mutters as he puts on his clothes. After which, he walks to his classroom with large strides. It didn't take long for him to arrive at his classroom. The moment he pushes the door open, a plump youth welcomes him enthusiastically. Zhang Laoshi, you are here. Look, I have already finished cleaning up the room. He is the final student Zhang Xuan accepted yesterday, the fatty Yuan Tao. Zhang Xuan didn't expect that this fellow would be the first to arrive, given how he threatened him yesterday. Furthermore, he even cleaned the classroom spick and span. Not bad. Zhang Xuan nods his head in approval. Hey, since teacher said that I did not bad, is there any reward for my effort? Like some martial art or cultivation technique and such. You can casually reward me with 3 or 5 of them. Hearing Zhang Xuan's acknowledgement, a wide smile appears on Fatty's face. This fellow is the type who would go too far when you give him some leeway. Wait by the side first. I will start the lesson after the other students arrive. Zhang Xuan gestures. The first to arrive is Fatty. Unexpectedly, the second to arrive is the student whom he won from the bet, Liu Yang. However, Liu Yang's attitude isn't as good as Fatty's. Indignation spells on his face as he gazes at Zhang Xuan with a look of contempt. In his opinion, Zhang Xuan only won the bet by luck, and it is a torture for a genius like him to come under the tutelage of a teacher of such horrendous standards. The third to arrive is the youth who specializes in the way of the spear, Cheng Yang. After Zhang Xuan pointed out the problem in Cheng Yang's spear, his strength rose by more than a single fold. As a result, Cheng Yang holds great confidence towards his teacher, and out of the current few students who acknowledged Zhang Xuan, he is the only one who came to him on his own free will. The fourth to arrive is Wang Ying. The shy lass couldn't help but blush upon catching sight of the other students when she enters and immediately hides at the corner. I should be able to solve the problem of my body today. Xiaoya opens her eyes. Vs it no, we, 3 pound, n, dot, cm for new well. Yesterday, the academy's worst teacher claimed that he is capable of solving her problem. After returning to her dormitory, she felt lost and worried, causing her to roll about her bed, only falling asleep after a long time later. Regardless of whether the other party is telling the truth or lying, there would surely be a conclusion by the end of today. When such a thought strikes her, she gargles her mouth, puts on her clothes and leaves the room swiftly. As the daughter of Bayou City Lord and one of the top 10 scorers of the entrance examinations, she is granted a personal residence, unlike the shared dormitory of the other students. There are many rooms in the residence, and the butler, Uncle Yao, stays in one of the rooms not too far away from hers. Uncle Yao, I'm going to class. Seeing no movements in the room after shouting, Xiaoya prepares to walk off. Young mistress, wait for me. I will go with you. A shout echoes from beyond the door. The door opens and Yao Ha walks out. Looking at his face, Xiaoya is taken aback. Uncle Yao, you. What happened? Xiaoya is stunned to see Yao Ha's swollen face and the dark rings around his eyes. In a single night, the dignified Yao Ha has been disfigured. If it wasn't for the familiar voice, she wouldn't have known who he is. Oh, I accidentally hit myself after getting too absorbed in my training yesterday. Yao Ha explains. Who would hit themselves in the midst of their training? Is it possible for anyone to find an even worse excuse than that? Uncle Yao, what happened? Who did it? No, I have to tell my dad. Xiaoya exclaims furiously. Young mistress, don't bother yourself with this. This is my own problem. I can resolve it myself. You better hurry to your class first. I want to see how the teacher you acknowledged is like. If his standards are exactly like what the rumors dictate, I will immediately report this to the city lord and have the Hongshan Academy get a new teacher for you. Yao Ha waves his hand imposingly. However, as his movements are too big, his wounds are pulled on and cold sweat drenches his back. Fine. Seeing how adamant Yao Ha is against her interference in the matter, Xiaoya doesn't touch on any further on the subject. The two of them walk towards Zhang Xuan's classroom. Uncle Yao, given how severely wounded you are, I think you should go back and rest first. I can attend the lesson by myself, there is no need for you to send me. After walking a short distance, Xiaoya noticed how his entire body is trembling and drenched in sweat. She couldn't help but say these words. Yesterday, Zhang Xuan didn't pull back his blows even in the least. Despite applying medicine on the wounds and resting for a few hours, his wounds are still severe. It is quite incredible that he is even able to walk. Young mistress, the city lord has tasked me to find a good teacher for you before we set off. Yet, you had to choose such a fellow. How can I face the city lord in the future? Yao Ha says. No matter what, I want to expose the true face of that fellow before you and prove to you that he is a fraud. Only a pure and innocent young mistress would fall for his tricks. Given those standards of his, it is impossible for him to recruit a second student. When you finally witness that there are no other students in his class, you would know that. Zia. The door to the classroom is pushed open, revealing its interior. Within the classroom sits Zhang Xuan and his 4 new students. Chapter 20, Wang Ying's Shock. Translator, Staff Cleric Editor, Third Pole and Tortex. After hearing that the young mistress has acknowledged Zhang Xuan as her master, Yao Ha rushes here furiously, oblivious to the fact that Zhang Xuan has already accepted several students. He had just let out word that the other party would be unable to recruit a second student other than the young mistress, but in the next moment, he meets Wang Ying and the rest. He feels as though he was slapped in the face in public. His face immediately darkens. Teacher. Xiaoya also feels a burning sensation on her face and she feels tempted to find a burrow to hide in. You are all right? A short moment later, Yao Ha recovers and stares in confusion at Zhang Xuan. That fellow yesterday was so brutal to him, so he thought that even if Zhang Xuan isn't reduced to a pig head, he would at the very least be crippled. So why does he seem to be fully intact, to the point of being unable to find even a single scratch on his skin? Actually, even though he said that he wanted to assist Zhang Xuan's standards as a teacher, his true purpose is to see his pathetic state after getting thrashed by the mysterious man. Yet, in the end, as a fighter 6 Dan Pixu realm expert, he went to assault him yet ended up getting beaten up while the one who he intended to assault isn't even wounded in the least. He feels as though he has lost greatly and he finds it unacceptable. Why wouldn't I be alright? Zhang Xuan knows what Yao Ha is thinking, but he replies with a stoic expression. He looks towards Xiaoya and asks, this disabled person is. Disabled person? A peculiar expression appears on Xiaoya's face. Before she could speak, a voice interrupts her. You are the one who is disabled. Yao Ha suppresses the urge to vomit blood. His eyebrows shoot upwards and he flings the sleeves of his robe. I am the butler of Bayou City Lord Residence, Yao Ha. Oh, since you are disabled, you shouldn't be walking around here. Otherwise, if you were to die here, it would be difficult for me to explain. As though not hearing his words, Zhang Xuan gestures to the door, send off a guest and shut the door. You! Yao Ha clenches his fist furiously and almost exploded on the spot. Who is he? The butler of Bayou City Lord Residence. He possesses great authority. In the Hongshan Academy, even the executive of the Education Bureau would have to give in to him. Yet, a teacher like Zhang Xuan dares to say that he is disabled and even tries to throw him out. How could it be possible for him to not be angry? I want to see how you are going to teach them. Putting his hands behind him, Yao Ha stands upright proudly. Oh, since you know that you have to leave, make it fast. We need to maintain a silent atmosphere when teaching the students, so we don't just allow any cats and dogs in our classrooms. Zhang Xuan seems to be on a different frequency as him. As though hearing nothing at all, he gestures towards the exit yet again. You! Who are you calling cat and dog? The rage burns with him and blood flows out from his wounds. Yao Ha trembles uncontrollably. Do you think that I wouldn't dare to kill you with a palm of mine right now? Xiaoya, send him out so that I can solve your problem. Can't be bothered to argue with the other party, Zhang Xuan signals to Xiaoya. Uncle Yao, please, leave for the moment. I am about to start lessons. Hearing those words, Xiaoya's eyes light up. I am not leaving. I want this fellow to clarify who he is talking about. I, Yao Ha, a fighter 6 Dan Pixu realm expert, is respected wherever I go. Who dares to say that I am crippled, even trying to drive me out? Peng. Before he could finish his words, Xiaoya pushes him out. The next moment, the side before him turns dark as the door closes on him. If he didn't dodge fast enough, he would have been smacked by the door. Young mistress. Check new oval CHTers at novelbian.com. Standing outside the door, Yao Ha frowns and his face twitches. If he was driven out by Zhang Xuan, he would surely retaliate. However, since it was the young mistress who drove him out, he wouldn't dare to lay his hands on her even if he was beaten to death. Even so, he directs all the resentment he has accumulated onto Zhang Xuan. He is unable to understand what capabilities the fellow possesses, to be capable of deluding the young mistress to such an extent. Uncle Yao, I'm sorry to bother you to wait outside. We are going to start lessons. Xiaoya knows about her own problem. Her own illness must not be revealed to anyone, especially to Uncle Yao. If her teacher is going to help her solve her problem, she would naturally have to drive him away. Fine, young mistress. I will be waiting outside. If anything happens, call me and I will rush in immediately. Hearing the words of the young mistress, Yao Ha knows that he would be unable to enter. He is on the verge of erupting, but without a choice, he could only grit his teeth and bear with it. After Yao Ha leaves, only Zhang Xuan's 5 newly accepted students and him remain in the room. Zhang Xuan surveys the surrounding. Since all of you have acknowledged me as your teacher, you all would be fellow peers. Make sure to take good care of one another so as to not sully my prestige. Prestige. Hearing this word, the 5 students stare at one another. Teacher, you don't seem to have any prestige? Cough cough, even if we wanted to sully it, there is nothing there to sully. My way to teaching is slightly different from the others. I pay particular importance to cater teachings to the student's personal condition. The way to guiding everyone is different. Thus, there is nothing to compare between you all. Zhang Xuan seems oblivious to the expressions of his students and puts on the airs of a teacher. Right now, I will go to the little room by the side. When I call your name, enter the little room. Zhang Xuan's classroom isn't big, around 100 square meters. Even so, there is a partition in which the teacher is able to give specific guidance to a student. These 5 students are different from one another. If he were to guide them together as a whole, it would be troublesome and highly ineffective. Wang Yang, you are my first student. Come in. After which, Zhang Xuan leads the way into the small room. Yes. Given Wang Yang's obedient nature, she doesn't dare to retort and walks closely behind him. Wang Yang feels a little regretful. Yesterday, she got lost and came over to ask for directions. Yet, she was scammed into acknowledging this teacher as her mentor. Initially, she didn't know what was going on, but after thinking through it, this teacher doesn't seem to be truly capable. Other teachers are able to tell the problem with her leg through her punching routine. However, not only was this fellow unable to tell, he even bragged about being able to cure the injury on her leg. For this injury, her father even found the most famous of physicians, but it was to no avail. Even so, the man before her claims that he is able to treat her. If this isn't a scam, what could this be? Furthermore, Liu Laoshi told her many things regarding this teacher. Only then did she realize that this teacher had such a radiant background. The first teacher to score a 0 in the teacher qualification examination and the weakest in terms of strength among the teachers. Why was she so unfortunate to be scammed by him and to believe his words? Only then did she realize that this teacher had such a radiant background. The first teacher to score a 0 in the teacher qualification examination and the weakest in terms of strength among the teachers. Why was she so unfortunate to be scammed by him and to believe his words? No wonder Big Brother said that there are many bad guys outside. When her elder brother told her that there were untrustworthy people outside, she didn't believe him. Now, looking at the teacher before her, she feels wronged, that she has been lied to. Just as she is thinking about how she should withdraw from the lessons of this teacher, that at most it would simply end with a scolding and she could find her elder brother to help her find another teacher, she hears a familiar voice sounding out. Display your battle technique once more. Zhang Xuan sits at the center of the room and looks over with a calm expression. The previous time, when he tried to coax Wang Yang into joining him, the Library of Heaven's Path wasn't activated yet, so he still has no idea what flaws do Wang Yang have. Alright. Although Wang Yang is tempted to withdraw from the lessons, she nods her head after hesitating for a moment. Once again, her fists generate gusts of wind and soon, her punching routine came to an end. N. Zhang Xuan nods his head. Although Wang Yang's character may be a little dense, her punching routine is quite satisfactory. Teacher, actually I want to. Wang Yang wavers for a moment, and just when she was about to express her intention to withdraw from Zhang Xuan's lesson, the young man opposite of her speaks. If I'm not wrong, your leg was probably struck by someone during a duel 2 years ago. Zhang Xuan says. You? How did you know? Wang Yang is taken aback. Her words jam in her mouth as her beautiful eyes widen in circles. She only talked about the injury on her leg yesterday, and not the origin of it. She didn't expect the other party to be capable of telling that it is an injury from someone's blow and even the time of the injury. She couldn't help but be shocked. There are 3 acupoints on a person's leg and individually, they govern strength, speed and dexterity. When you battled with someone else, the other party accidentally struck the acupoint which governs strength. When this acupoint is struck, it closes, resulting in your blood to flow in reverse, thus preventing you from exerting strength on it like any other normal person. Zhang Xuan states calmly. That. Wang Ying's body trembles. Her face flushes completely red. For her leg, Wang Ying's father had invited all of the renowned doctors in the kingdom, including the famous Master Yuan Yu. He seems to have spoken similar words, but even he was unable to identify where the acupoint which governs strength is, thus he was unable to treat her. If she wants to be treated once and for all, she has to invite a fighter 8 Danzong Shirial master who possesses superior Chenki to treat her. Otherwise, it is impossible for the treatment to succeed. Initially, she thought that this teacher who claimed that he would be able to treat her leg is just trying to coax her to come under his tutelage. Yet, she didn't expect that he would say the exact same words as what Master Yuan Yu said, so how could she not be shocked? Teacher, are you able to treat me? Wang Ying couldn't resist asking. It is just a small matter. Zhang Xuan replies her question blandly. A small matter? Wang Ying's eyes narrow as her breathing quickens. Chapter 21, Zephyr Acupuncture. / Even though she had no problem walking normally with her leg injury, she faced great difficulty in her training. It feels as though poison has soaked into her bones. In the past half year, there doesn't seem to be a single day she spent in happiness. Precisely so, she became the current her who is a little fearful towards stranger, as well as reticent. Initially, she thought that her injury would stay with her for her entire life. Yet, she didn't expect that the Zhang Xuan Laoshi, whom everyone thought was trash, would say that it is a small matter. She found it hard to believe what her ears are hearing. If it was a moment ago, she might have thought that Zhang Xuan was simply bragging. However, from the instant he pointed out the reason behind her injury, expectation starts to well up in her. The reason why I had you to come into this room individually is to treat you. Alright, relax your entire body. Zhang Xuan retrieves a medium-sized jade box from the room and opens it gently. Within it lies numerous silver needles of different length. During the training sessions of a martial artist, it is easy for one to incur injuries. Thus, the academy prepared a kit of such in every single classroom to help to boost blood circulation of the wounded, as well as to temporarily ease the injury. Yes. Wang Ying listens to the voice of the young man which was steadfast, confident but without a trace of arrogance and replies. Somehow, Wang Ying trusts the man before her from the depths of her heart and her tense body relaxes. So, sitting on his original spot without moving, he grabs a silver needle and flicks it over. A soft sound and the silver needle he infused with Chenki shoots tautly towards Wang Ying and pierces her leg. This is Zephyr Acupuncture? Wang Ying widens her eyes as her slim body trembles yet again. Zephyr Acupuncture. It is a method which makes use of a martial artist's control over his strength to control the pathway of the silver needles to pierce the correct spots without coming into contact with the patient's body. In this way, a male physician would be able to apply acupuncture without coming into proximity to a female patient. This way, awkwardness between the two is able to be avoided. Such a method of practicing acupuncture may seem simple, but it is actually incredibly complicated. Firstly, it requires the martial artist to hold absolute control over his strength. If there is a slight imprecision, there is a high possibility that it would result in failure. Furthermore, one's eyes must be sharp. It is difficult to recognize the exact acupoints beneath the patient's clothes. If the physician were to recognize the acupuncture inaccurately, all kind of troubles could happen. Master Yuan Yu has once said that one must at least attain the cultivation level of Fighter 5 Dan Dingali realm to practice Zephyr Acupuncture. Has the teacher termed as trash in the academy reached such a level? Impossible. Visit novelbin.c.m for updates. Those who have reached Dingali realm are all famous figures in the academy, such as the famous teacher Lu Xuan. According to Liu Laoshi, Zhang Xuan Laoshi is only a Fighter 3 Dan Chenki realm. There is still a huge way to go before he reaches 5 Dan Dingali realm. A Fighter 3 Dan Chenki realm is capable of executing Zephyr Acupuncture? She finds it unbelievable. So. While she is still in a state of disbelief, the young man flicks a few more silver needles towards her. A few gusts of wind whip up and the silver needles pierce into her leg with the exact same depth. This shows that the other party has already reached a rather advanced level of his control over his strength. The silver needle pierces into the flesh of her leg. Just as Wang Ying is about to ask Zhang Xuan how he intends to treat her, his hand slides past the needle and the Chenki that is contained in the needle activates and probes into her body. As the Chenki enters her body, she feels a tingling sensation in her leg. The acupoint which was sealed previously immediately opens under the surge of the Chenki. This is superior Chenki? As the tingling sensation spreads across her entire body, Wang Ying clearly sees the look of the Chenki in her body. Clear like water, deprived of any impurities. This is the quality that only superior Chenki would possess. Superior Chenki? That is something that can only be cultivated if one possesses a god or saint cultivation technique. In the entire Zhang Xuan kingdom, it is unheard of for anyone to cultivate superior Chenki. Yet, to think the lousiest teacher in the academy would possess it? It can't be that I am seeing things. Done. While she was still overwhelmed by shock, her body relaxes completely and slumps. By then, the silver needles had already been retrieved by the other party. Following which, Wang Ying feels a surge of relaxation in her leg, a comfortable sensation which she has never experienced. After her injury, although she is still able to move normally, her legs feel as though they have been plastered, plagued with a stiff sensation at all times. At this moment, wave after wave of pleasant sensation surges through her leg, as though it has broken through some shackles. Her leg feels incomparably nimble and lively. My leg. She might be slow-witted, but it is clear to see that the injury on her leg has been cured. Teacher, thank. Wang Ying's knees slacken and she kneels onto the floor. Her eyes are entirely red. For this day, she has waited for a very long time. In fact, she even felt despair at her situation. Never in her dreams would she imagine that such a stubborn illness would be cured by the academy's worst teacher. It seems that the fact is that he is a very capable person, just that he maintains a low profile. Such a thought pops into her head. If he wasn't intentionally maintaining a low profile, regardless of how his lessons are like, just the fact that he is able to cure her legs means that he is more than capable of building his reputation up in this academy. How else is it possible for him to be the last in the teacher qualification examination? With such a thought in mind, Wang Ying kneels to the floor and acknowledges Zhang Xuan as her teacher from the depths of her heart. All thoughts of withdrawing from his tutelage dispel. And, now that your leg injury has recovered, go out and train properly. If you have any other problems, come over and find me afterward. Zhang Xuan gestures and entrusts her with a task. By the way, call Liu Yang over. Yes. Wang Ying replies excitedly before walking out of the room. I intend to withdraw from his lessons later. Are any of you all with me? In the classroom, after Liu Yang, Cheng Yang, Chaoya and Yuan Tao had introduced themselves to one another, Liu Yang said. To tell the truth, he feels extremely dispirited. Scoring within the top 100, there are many top teachers who are vying for him. Yet, in the end, due to the bet made between two teachers, he was lost to the worst teacher in the entire academy. The intense feeling of being wronged makes him go into a frenzy. No matter what, I have to withdraw from his lessons today. Even if it means that I have to withdraw from the school. No one will be able to halt my footsteps. I also want to withdraw from his lessons. But if Zhang Xuan Lao Shi were to be angered, it is hard to tell what he might do. Fatty Yuan Tao couldn't resist saying. Angry? HMPH, so what if he is angry? What can he do? I don't want to go berserk from his misguidance. Liu Yang scoffs. Berserk. Cheng Yang looks over doubtfully. He only knows that the teacher before him scored badly for the teacher qualification examination, being the last of the lot. He has never heard of the incident of a student going berserk from his guidance. N. Liu Yang continues, if you don't believe it, just wait and see. When Wang Ying walks out later, her face would surely be awful. She would feel like she has been scammed. I have already long heard of Zhang Xuan Lao Shi's teaching standards. If he was able to offer proper pointers, he wouldn't have landed in such a state, being viewed in contempt by the other teachers. Zia! Just as they were speaking, the door opens and Wang Ying walks out with an excited look. Liu Yang is taken aback. Initially, he thought that she would be depressed, yet contrary to his expectations, she is smiling happily. The other few students are also puzzled. That joy comes from the depths of her heart. She must have reaped some great rewards for such an expression to appear. Could it be that the teacher with such a horrible reputation could give proper pointers? To get a student to be so excited in just a single session, as though she has attained some precious treasure, probably even the famous Lu Xuan Lao Shi isn't capable of such a feat. Liu Yang, teacher called for you to enter. Oblivious to what the others are thinking, Wang Ying informs him before going to one corner to start training. Me. Liu Yang clenches his jaw. I would like to see what pointers you are able to offer me. If you can't offer me any good pointers, I will withdraw from your lessons. Muttering silently in his heart, he walks into the room. Chapter 22, The Reason Behind Zhao Ya's Illness. Liu Yang might have been guided by Zhang Xuan previously, but he doesn't believe that the latter is capable. Rather, he thought that Zhang Xuan simply got lucky. After all, asking someone to use a different hand to execute a punching routine doesn't involve much skill. Thus, from the depths of his heart, he still looks down on the teacher in front of him. Teacher. Walking into the room, he cups his hand and bows slightly to Zhang Xuan, although his tone isn't very respectful. I have seen you execute your battle techniques before. Seemingly oblivious to his disrespect, Zhang Xuan continues, to be able to train Soaring Flower Fist to the rookie level and Dragon Inch Fist to the expert level, not bad. What? You? How did you know that I am trained in Dragon Inch Fist? Hearing those words, Liu Yang, who was disregarding Zhang Xuan, almost faints from shock. Logically, due to his weak strength, he should have focused on his cultivation technique. Even if he has to learn battle technique, he should have practiced a normal battle technique such as Soaring Flower Fist instead of Dragon Inch Fist. Dragon Inch Fist, being a mortal lower-tier battle technique, is much more formidable than the Soaring Flower Fist. In order to become stronger, he hid the fact that he was practicing this punch routine from his family members. Ever since his Dragon Inch Fist reached rookie level, he has never executed it in front of anyone else. Previously, the battle technique which he showed Zhang Xuan was the Soaring Flower Fist. Yet, Zhang Xuan was able to tell that he practices the Dragon Inch Fist and that it is at the expert level. How could he tell? There is shadows of the Dragon Inch Fist in your Soaring Flower Fist. Naturally, Zhang Xuan can't possibly reveal that it is due to the library of Heaven's Path. He didn't even blink when telling an outright lie. You can even tell from that. Liu Yang is still in a state of disbelief. The two skills aren't even in the slightest related to one another. Previously, he also executed the Soaring Flower Fist in front of Xiao Xiong Laoshi, but he wasn't able to tell that much from it. Yet, the academy's worst teacher is able to see through it with one glance. Is this for real? While he is still holding doubts in his heart, the teacher sitting before him continues. Reaching the level of an expert, your Dragon Inch Fist holds considerable might. However, do you feel an ache under your armpits and an itch in your Jianjin acupoint whenever you execute it? TL, Jianjin, shoulder well acupoint, right beside the back of your neck on your shoulder. This. Taking a few steps back, Liu Yang looks as though he has seen a ghost, fear appearing within his eyes. Not only are the words of the other party correct, they are exactly spot on. It is as though he has seen him training. You? How did you know? Liu Yang couldn't help but ask with a pale face. It is very simple, you have been practicing an inappropriate battle technique. If you continue training at this rate, I can guarantee that the muscles of your entire arm will be destroyed within 3 years. Even immortals will find it hard to save you. In fact, the effects are already apparent now. Do you feel your body going stiff when you are sleeping at night, sometimes even spasming? Zhang Xuan questions. Liu Yang trembles. Indeed, he has such a condition. Just that, he thought it was due to over-exhaustion from excessive training, so he didn't pay it much heed. Never in his dreams would imagine that it was due to him practicing the Dragon Inch Fist. Dragon Inch Fist, it is a skill which regards one's body like a dragon and emphasizes the concept of might in every inch of your body. If you had reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm and had Chenki nourish your muscles, there won't be any side effects from cultivating this battle technique. However, you are only in Juxi realm and your body is far too weak. Forcefully cultivating this battle technique will only cause your body to be injured. As time passes, the injury will only worsen. This is also the reason why, although you aren't left-handed, your left hand poses significantly greater strength than your right hand. That is because you practice the Dragon Inch Fist with your right, causing great damage to it. If you don't stop now, you will become crippled. Your F4 write stories on .cm. Zhang Xuan warns. Teacher, save me. At this moment, Liu Yang no longer possesses the arrogance he had when he first walked in. His knees weaken and he kneels to the floor. At this moment, he understands that the teacher before him is definitely an expert, a master among experts. That is because everything Zhang Xuan said fits perfectly with what is happening to him. If Zhang Xuan didn't voice it out, Liu Yang wouldn't have paid much attention to it. However, now that he has stated all of it out clearly and logically, Liu Yang immediately understands that everything he said is true. In the face of such an expert, what rights does he have to remain arrogant? It is laughable that he thought that he felt wronged for acknowledging him as his teacher. Only now does he realize how fortunate he is. Before acknowledging Xiao Xiong, he has also met quite a few notable teachers in the academy and displayed his battle technique before them. However, they were unable to tell that he is trained in the Dragon Inch Fist, needless to say, seeing through the fact that his right arm is injured. First, stop training in the Dragon Inch Fist and try your best to raise your cultivation. As for the injury that you have sustained and accumulated, I will think of an idea to solve it. Zhang Xuan declares. All right, call Qiaoya in. Yes. Liu Yang nods his head hurriedly. Not daring to say anything further, he quickly walks out. The moment he walks out, he sees Cheng Yang, Qiaoya and Yuan Tao staring at him. Have you withdrawn from Zhang Xuan Laoxi's tutelage? Yuan Tao asks in agitation. Withdraw? Why should I withdraw? Liu Yang waves his hand and declares proudly, his face not turning red in the slightest. He who teaches me for one day is my father for life. I, Liu Yang, will not withdraw from Zhang Xuan Laoxi's lessons. What kind of people do you think I am? Do I look like that casual a person? I really don't know what you all are thinking, to be thinking about withdrawing all day along. Aren't you all embarrassed? Cheng Yang, Qiaoya and Yuan Tao. Shameless. He is too shameless. Just a moment ago, he is still going on about how determined he is to withdraw from Zhang Xuan's lessons. Yet, in the blink of an eye, he changed his words entirely. Exactly how thick is his skin? That teacher is probably, truly capable. Seeing the vastly different attitudes between the two when they went in and came out, Qiaoya thinks in her mind as she pushes the door open. Actually, after hearing Uncle Yao Ha's words, it isn't like she never wavered in her determination. However, the truth still stands that the other party was able to point out her illness accurately, giving her hope for a cure. After all, she is too embarrassed to speak of this illness in front of others, so it is impossible for her to reveal it to too many people. Sit down. Upon walking into the room, she sees Zhang Laoxi and sits down. Teacher, you said that, you can cure my illness. Qiaoya reddens. N. Zhang Xuan nods his head. Your illness is an easy problem. Actually, it isn't very difficult to solve Qiaoya's problem. She isn't really sick but rather, she possesses the pure yin body, a physical body which countless women desire. The yin energy in her body is overpowering and if it is directed correctly, her cultivation would soar rapidly. However, it is a pity that no one in Bayou City noticed it and even chose a yin nature cultivation technique for her. For the other females, it is indeed quite a good manual to cultivate. However, for Qiaoya, who possesses a pure yin body, to cultivate such a cultivation technique, it is simply worsening the situation for her. The yin energy in her body accumulates gradually over time. When she was younger, it was still undetectable. However, as her body develops, the unique traits of a female becomes apparent and she would start to find it hard to suppress her urges. If she isn't cured in time and continues on this way, she might become a being possessed by her lust and find it hard to satisfy his desires no matter how hard she tries. This is precisely the reason why such an awkward situation is occurring in her. This. Qiaoya is taken aback. She didn't know that she possesses a pure yin body. In fact, even her father is oblivious to the fact. However, the part about her cultivating a pure yin cultivation technique is true. Is this really the cause? White jade pure maiden skill, it is an impressive skill, but it isn't suited for you. If you want to solve this problem at its roots, you have to find another new cultivation technique. After explaining the situation, Zhang Xuan states. You. How did you know that I cultivate the white jade pure maiden skill? Qiaoya is taken aback. This cultivation technique has been passed down in the Bayou City. Other than the Bai family, there are very few people who are aware of it. Even the butler Yao Ha, who is at the entrance of the classroom now, isn't too sure about it. Yet, the teacher before her is able to point it out instantly. Qiaoya is in a state of disbelief. If I am capable of seeing through illness, naturally, I would be able to see through your cultivation technique as well. Zhang Xuan tilts his head 45 degrees as he assumes the look of an expert whose depth cannot be seen. Cultivating a new cultivation technique can solve the problem? Then, what kind of cultivation technique should I cultivate? Suppressing the astonishment in her mind forcefully, Qiaoya asks. You should find a cultivation technique capable of unleashing the potential of your body and not one that accumulates yin energy. How about this? I will go to the Academy's Compendium Pavilion to take a look for you to see if there are any suitable ones for you. Zhang Xuan says. Thank you, teacher. Qiaoya nods her head hurriedly. The problem hasn't been solved yet, but at the very least, she is aware of the cause now. A surge of exhilaration gushes through her heart. N. Zhang Xuan waves his hands to show that it is a small matter. Call Cheng Yang in. While Zhang Xuan is providing pointers to his students in the room, outside the classroom, a tall youth walks over in wide strides. Elder Liu, is what you said true? As the tall youth walks, he questions the elderly following him behind. Young master, that is the truth. Young mistress has acknowledged Zhang Xuan as her master. Old Liu nods his head quickly. If Zhang Xuan was here, he would definitely be able to recognize that the old Liu here is the person who tried to withdraw Wang Ying from his lessons yesterday. The person who he calls young master should be Wang Ying's elder brother, the genius of Hongshan Academy, the disciple of an elder, Wang Tao. Zhang Xuan? The teacher who scored a 0 for his teacher qualification examination? What rights does he have to teach my younger sister? Damn it. If I don't teach him a lesson today to let him know the price for deceiving my younger sister, I will not call myself Wang Tao. As Wang Tao walks towards the classroom, he declares furiously. Chapter 23, Troublemaker. Tianshuan City is the capital of Tianshuan Kingdom. To be capable of becoming one of the 4 great families of the city, the prowess of the Wang family is one to behold. Even the principal of the Hongshan Academy would have to spare some face for such a powerful family. To think that of all teachers, Wang Ying would choose to acknowledge a fellow who has scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. That is an insult. A massive insult. Even though other people might not be aware of the affairs shrouding Zhang Xuan, as a student of the academy, Wang Tao has heard a lot about him. He has once misguided a student, causing his cultivation to go berserk, thus sullying the reputation of the teachers. This person is the topic of discussion and target of mockery over a meal or tea with his peers. Yet, never in his imaginations would he expect his younger sister to choose to acknowledge him as her teacher. If the other students were to be informed of it, won't he become a laughingstock? The more he thinks about it, the more angry Wang Tao becomes. He walks towards the entrance of the classroom and spots Yao Ha, who is wrapped like a mummy. I see, it is young Master Wang Tao. As the butler of Bayou City Lord Residence, Yao Ha had come into contact with many different powers. Given that Wang Tao is a talented genius and the son of the head of the Wang family, it is natural for Yao Ha to be aware of his existence. You are. Glancing at him, Wang Tao's eyebrows shoot up. After getting beaten up so savagely, not a single hint of his original appearance remains. Even Zhao Ya finds it hard to recognize him in his current state, needless to say, Wang Tao. I am Yao Ha from Bayou City. Yao Ha says. Oh, so you are Butler Yao. Why are you? Wang Tao is slightly taken aback. I accidentally injured myself in the midst of training. Yao Ha explains awkwardly before changing the topic. May I ask what young Master Wang Tao is here for? My younger sister has acknowledged Zhang Xuan as her teacher. I am here to take her back, as well as to teach the arrogant teacher a lesson. Wang Tao doesn't even try to conceal his rage. Ah? Your younger sister? You mean Wang Ying Xiaoji? TL, Xiaoji, miss? Yao Ha was driven out of the classroom right shortly after he entered it. Furthermore, his attention was focused on Zhang Xuan the whole time, thus, he didn't notice Wang Ying's presence. Wang Tao nods his head. I have heard that Wang Ying Xiaoji's talent is in no way inferior to yours. Why would she choose him? Yao Ha is puzzled. My younger sister rarely comes into contact with the outside world and has an innocent personality. That fellow has a glib tongue and I'm not sure what the fellow said, but my younger sister actually believed the nonsense he spouted. Recalling what old Liu told him, fury flares from Wang Tao. How vile. That fellow is a scourge, the scum among the teachers. Upon recalling how the young mistress of his family has fallen for his deception as well, he grits his teeth angrily. Young Master Wang Tao, you have to teach that fellow a lesson. CHCK for EW Centrius or Novi Albin, dot. C0 meter. N. Wang Tao replies. At the same time, he stares at him doubtfully. Right, Butler Yao, why are you here? Let's not talk about it. The more I talk about it, the angrier I get. Our young mistress had also fallen for the deceitful words of Zhang Xuan and acknowledged him as her teacher. Yao Ha scoffs. You mean Chao Ya Xiaoji? Wang Tao is taken aback. Yes. Yao Ha nods his head. Then, why don't you barge in and expose that hypocritical fellow? Why are you waiting at the entrance instead? Wang Tao is bewildered. I wanted to expose that fellow, but our young mistress got agitated. I had no choice but to wait outside. Young Master Wang Tao, you came at a perfect timing. If you were to go in now, teach that shameless fellow a lesson and expose his ugly intentions, our young mistress would be able to see his true colors. Yao Ha says. Rest assured, I will be exposing his fraud now. I will make sure that shameless fellow reveals his despicable self. Wang Tao grits his teeth and nods his head. Then, he kicks the door open and walks in with widened strides. On the other hand, Zhang Xuan has finally gone through the individual situations of his 5 students with them. There are quite a few flaws with Cheng Yang's spear. Zhang Xuan elaborated on them slightly, causing Cheng Yang's strength to soar once again, and the latter rejoiced over his improvement. On the other hand, Yuan Tao has never cultivated a proper cultivation technique or battle technique. Zhang Xuan took out the Academy's basic Hongshan 9 Dan Formula's 1 Dan formula and modified it slightly before passing it to him. He didn't modify much of it, so there is still a large gap between it and the Heaven's Path divine art that he is currently cultivating with. Even so, it is still several times more effective than the original Hongshan 9 Dan formula. With just one look, Yuan Tao almost leaps up from the joy rushing through him, overjoyed to realize that he has acknowledged an accomplished teacher. Alright, I have roughly gone through the problems you all have on you. You all need to persevere in your training. Returning back to the classroom, Zhang Xuan gathered all 5 of his students together and was explaining the situation to them when boom, the door to the classroom is kicked open. Following which, a furious howl echoes in the room. Zhang Xuan, withdraw my younger sister and Chao Ya Xiaoji from your lessons right now. Otherwise, I will make you will suffer. Following which, Wang Tao rushes in and stands furiously before Zhang Xuan. His eyes are dyed crimson red, as though he is ready to murder someone. Big brother. Seeing her elder brother in such a state, Wang Ying is shocked and immediately rushes forward. Don't interfere in this. He pushes his younger sister to his back before staring coldly at Zhang Xuan. With a haughty expression, he says, Zhang Xuan, it is one thing if you use your nonsense to deceive others, but to think that you would dare to coax my younger sister with lies. You are seeking death. I will give you 10 seconds. If you withdraw my younger sister and Chao Ya Xiaoji from your tutelage now, I can let this slip. If not, even if you are a teacher, don't blame me for not going easy on you. Boom! With a scornful look, Wang Tao releases his full strength, revealing a very powerful aura. He had reached the level of a fighter for Dan Pigu realm. No wonder he could become a disciple of an elder. This strength is in no way weaker than an average teacher of the academy. I am conducting lessons right now, get out. Zhang Xuan looks at him blandly. Conducting lessons? With your standard, what could you possibly be teaching? Wang Tao mocks him coldly. Get out? You want me to get out? Who do you think you are? The only reason why I call you a teacher is out of basic respect. Look at how you are you not aware of it? You are only a lowly teacher who is still in Chenki realm, don't act like you are a big shot before me. Even if I were to beat you up today, the most that would happen is a reprimand by the elders. What could you possibly do to me? He isn't wrong. There are quite a few disciples of the elders in the academy who are stronger than the teachers and hold esteemed positions in the academy. Even if a conflict were to break out between them and the teachers, the most they would do is to reprimand them slightly, there won't be any severe punishments. Big brother. Wang Ying's face pales. She is very aware of the fact whether the teacher before her has standards or not. When all of the expert physicians in the entire Tiangshuan kingdom could do nothing about her problem, he was able to solve it casually. How could such a person possibly have no standards at all? Just as he was about to stop that rash elder brother of hers, the face of her teacher darkens and his eyes narrow. Scram! Do ask me to scram. He didn't expect that the trash of a teacher would get him to scram. Just as he is about to continue speaking, he catches a glimpse of the cold gaze of the other party. Looking into his eyes, Wang Tao shivers uncontrollably, as though he is a rabbit who had caught the gaze of a tiger. Under the oppression of a powerful aura, he retreats a few steps subconsciously and his legs tremble. He has only felt such sharp aura from his master. How could it possibly appear on the academy's worst teacher, a fellow who is just fighter 3 Dan Chenki realm? It took a moment before Wang Tao regains his composure. In that instant, Wang Tao's face darkens like an ant's nest as his eyes took on a deep shade of red. In his eyes, even though Zhang Xuan is a teacher, he is not any more than a trash. Yet, this trash dares to shout at him and cause him to retreat out of fear. If this were to spread out, how could he possibly face any other people? How would he be able to maintain his prestige? You are courting death. Feeling humiliated, Wang Tao rose and with a flick of his hand, the sword on his waist has been drawn. Who? The sword stabs out in a flash. Pa pa pa. At fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm, one would possess strength beyond 500 kilograms. Even before the sword reaches him, the continuous sound generated from the friction between the sword and the wind creates an oppressing atmosphere, as though it would be impossible to counter the attack. Zhang Laoshi. Seeing her elder brother striking out with such speed, Wang Ying's face turns ghastly white. Although she is impressed by the guidance of Zhang Laoshi, she is well aware of the fact that the teacher before her is only at fighter 3 Dan. He is far from a match for her brother. It is impossible for him to dodge the blow, he would definitely be injured. Frightened, she shrieks in fear and closes her eyes subconsciously. How? How could this be possible? Just when she thought that the Zhang Laoshi who just resolved her problem for her would be wounded by the sword, she hears voices of disbelief from Chaoya and the others. She quickly opens her eyes to take a look and her eyeballs almost popped out from their sockets. She petrifies on the spot. She sees her elder brother's incomparably powerful and mighty slash getting stopped in midair, and what is stopping it is the two seemingly weak fingers of Zhang Xuan and Laoshi. To block such a powerful blow with just the pinching of two fingers. Chapter 24, Throw him out. Impossible. Wang Tao is also in a state of disbelief. Before he came, he had made sure to look into Zhang Xuan's strength. Back then, the information he got was that he was only fighter 3 Dan Chenki realm, a weakling. How could he possibly stop his attack with just two fingers? In order to achieve such a feat, not only must one possess sufficient strength, he must also be precise in his timing, control over his strength, his positioning and many other factors. If there were to be a slight discrepancy in his judgment, it is possible for his fingers to be severed and he would be severely injured. The other teachers, or perhaps even the Pixu realm elders, would be unable to achieve such a feat. Yet, a fellow who is reputed to be trash. Impossible. Coincidence. It must be a coincidence. Such a thought pops into his mind. A savage look appears on Wang Tao's face once more, and exerting strength through his both hands, he howls, "Let go." He wants to retrieve his sword that is trapped between the two fingers of Zhang Xuan. However, despite trying twice consecutively, to the point that veins are popping out on his temple and that he is about to vomit blood due to overexertion of strength, he is astonished to realize that the sword that is held between the Zhang Xuan's fingers seems to be firmly latched onto his fingers. No matter how much strength he exerts, it doesn't budge in any way. Could it be his true strength isn't Chenki realm? A peculiar thought appears in his mind. But this is impossible. It hasn't been long since the last teacher qualification examination. Everyone in the academy is aware of the fact that he only has the strength of a Chenki realm pinnacle. Furthermore, even if he were to break through his current realm, he would only be at Pigu realm, which is the same level as him. He wouldn't be so hard-pressed just by a mere two fingers of the other party. Scram! Just as Wang Tao is considering the peculiarity of the situation, a surge of might suddenly comes rushing towards him through the sword, and the impassive words of the other party echoes by his ear. Who? Before he could even react, his entire body is sent flying through the air. Boom! His head bashes through the door of the classroom. Alright, let's continue on with our lessons. After casually throwing Wang Tao out, Zhang Xuan turns towards the rest and says blandly. Wang Ying, Chaoya, Liu Yang, Cheng Yang and Yuan Tao stare at one another. The turn of events left them unable to react, and they are on the verge of exploding due to the overwhelming shock. That is a fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm expert. Not mentioning how an attack of his full strength was easily dealt with, to think he would be thrown out with such ease. Isn't this teacher of theirs the worst teacher with the lowest combat ability in the entire academy? How did he do it? Teacher has been hiding his strength. Suddenly, Chaoya comes to a realization as her face flushes from excitement. The only viable explanation is that the teacher before her has been concealing his true strength. If not, how could he possibly point out the problems whom no one else could discern and boost their might with just a casual pointer? The others aren't fools as well. They clench their fist in agitation. Coming to the academy to come under the tutelage of the teachers, who wouldn't hope to be under the guidance of a capable teacher. Before this, everyone thought that their lives would be miserable, judging from how they came under the tutelage of the academy's worst teacher. Only now do they know that they have won in the competition of choosing one's teachers, an overwhelming one at it. The teacher with the worst reputation in the academy is actually a true worldly expert. When their path of thoughts reaches this point, all of the excessive thoughts disappear from their minds as they nod their head vigorously. Even Liu Yang, who held doubts about Zhang Xuan's lessons, couldn't help but look over in enthusiasm, afraid that he would miss out a single word of his teacher. What Lu Xuan Laoshi and Wang Chao Laoshi? All of these has been thrown to the back of their minds. Not just them, even the elders would have to kneel when compared to Zhang Laoshi. To rush in like this, I hope that young master is fine. Outside the classroom, old Liu looks worriedly at Wang Tao, who had barged into the classroom furiously. Rest easy, Wang Tao Xiaoye has reached fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm while that Zhang Xuan is still stuck at Chenki realm. Soon, he would be able to teach him a lesson and bring young Mistress Wang Ying out. Xiaoye, young master. Yao Ha nods his head with a bright smile on his face. Just as he is visioning the pathetic state the shameless teacher would be in with his teeth scattered all over the floor, he suddenly hears Wang Tao's furious howl from the room. It has begun. Yao Ha's eyes light up and the edges of his mouth creep upwards. If that Zhang Xuan was only the last in the entire academy, Yao Ha wouldn't be bothered to interfere in his affairs. However, to think that he would dare to be disrespectful to the young mistress. If Zhang Xuan didn't execute some underhanded tricks, how could the young mistress possibly willingly acknowledge him as her teacher? If Yao Ha were to make a move personally, he would definitely incur the ire of the young mistress, not to mention offending the Hongshan Academy at that. It would be more than ideal for Wang Tao to make a move in his stead. Hongshan Academy is located in Tianshuan royal capital, the home ground of the Wang family. Even if Wang Tao were to beat up a teacher, they would definitely have the means to deal with it. Furthermore, Wang Tao is the disciple of an elder and holds an esteemed position in the academy. It is much more appropriate for him to make a move. Hey, I would like to see how would that trash of a teacher embarrass himself. The more he thinks about it, the more delighted he gets. Yao Ha creeps towards the doorstep, intending to open up a crack between the doors and peek through it when he hears a boom and the tightly shut doors burst open. Peng! Yao Ha didn't even have the time to react from the sudden assault by the metal door. It slams right into his face, rattling his consciousness. In the midst of his daze, a head comes crashing into him. Kacha! The intimate encounter between his face and the head creates the crisp melody of the cracking of a bone, and the two remaining teeth that survived yesterday's attack after much difficulty dislodges valiantly. Boo! The intense pain causes Yao Ha to convulse and a mouthful of fresh blood bursts forth. His body isn't fragile, but he had yet to recover from his injuries from the prior day. Yesterday, he had been bashed in his face and now, he was slammed by a metal door before a head comes crashing into him right after. It is already quite a blessing for him to be alive at this point. Young master. Old Liu realizes that the one who was sent flying was his young master and he dashes over, frightened. Damn it, damn it. Wang Tao might have knocked into the metal door, but with Yao Ha cushioning his fall, he isn't severely injured by that encounter. Standing up and recalling how the trash caught his blow and threw him out, he feels an intense fear. Although he shouted loudly, he didn't dare to approach the classroom anymore. Young Master Wang Tao, you. Faint-headed, Yao Ha only realizes at this point that the one who knocked into him is Wang Tao. With an intrigued expression, he struggles to stand up. Didn't you rush in to beat him up? How come you are the one who was sent flying out? I was practicing as a new type of battle technique. Wang Tao didn't dare to say that he had been thrown out by trash, so he could only come up with something else. Battle technique. Yao Ha's vision is still blurry from the previous impact. He hurriedly questions, did you expose the true face of that fellow? How did our young mistress react? Cough cough. I didn't have the time to make a move when my younger sister pushed me out. I think, why don't we try waiting here? Wang Tao says with an embarrassed look. Just a moment ago, he was still declaring how he would make the other party suffer. Yet, the next moment, he was sent flying out. He wouldn't acknowledge such a shameful affair even if he were beaten to the verge of death. Wait. Yao Ha scratches his head as doubts appear in his mind. However, he didn't think that he should point them out, so he chooses to change the topic instead. Wang Tao Xiaowei, I have a question to ask of you, seeing how you are also a student of Hongshan Academy. Xiaowei, young master. Go ahead. Seeing how Yao Ha doesn't continue pursuing the events that transpired in the classroom, Wang Tao heaves a sigh of relief and replies. Is there any female teachers in the academy who has, Bai, in their name? Recalling the fellow who beat him up the previous day, Yao Ha's anger billows. Bai? The most famous one of them all is the academy's female goddess, Shen Bairu. I heard that Zhang Xuan Laoshi wanted to court her as well. He is truly a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Most up-to-date unveils are published on N. 2000, Vilj, N. Com. Halfway through his words, Wang Tao pauses abruptly. Before this, everyone knew that Zhang Xuan's abilities were subpar and his capability as a teacher was horrendous as well. With such standards, he dared to pursue the academy's female goddess Shen Bairu. That's why everyone termed him as such. Now that Wang Tao has experienced the other party's strength firsthand and understands that he is on a different level from him, he finds it unnatural to continue saying that he is a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Shen Bairu? Zhang Xuan wants to court her. Yao Ha's eyes light up as he comes to a realization. The person whom the fellow yesterday was talking about must be her. He continues asking, other than Zhang Laoshi, is there anyone else who is courting her? Shen Laoshi is incredibly beautiful, the teachers who wish to court her are far too many for me to count. However, the most famous of them all is the grandson of elder Shang Chen, Shang bin Laoshi. After pondering for a moment, Wang Tao looks over in suspicion. Why is Butler Yao asking such a question? Oh, I am just casually asking. Yaoha doesn't touch any further on the topic, but a glint flashes past his eyes. I will be able to ascertain it after looking into whether this Shang Bin had gotten into a conflict with Zhang Xuan yesterday. If it really is him, regardless of whether he is the son of an elder, I would definitely make him suffer. When had the butler of the Bayou City Lord, a figure that rises above the others, standing beneath only an individual, suffered such a great injustice? If he doesn't seek vengeance on him, it would be hard to quell the resentment accumulating in his heart. For it, he is willing to turn into a demon. Chapter 25, Looking for Trouble. Shang Xiaoye. Xiaoye, young master. Xiao Xiong says respectfully. Xiao Xiong Laoshi, you were looking for me. Shang Bin looks over with a puzzled expression. They might be both teachers of the academy and they often bump into one another, but their relationship is still stuck at the level of an acquaintance. Indeed. I have something which I would have to trouble Shang Xiaoye with. Xiao Xiong hesitates for a moment before speaking. As long as it is something I could help you with, I will try my best. Xiao Xiong replies. As the grandson of Elder Shang Qian, there are quite a few teachers who come looking for him for favors every day and he has long gotten used to it. Is that so? Yesterday, I took much difficulty in admitting a student under my tutelage, but he was snatched away by another teacher through deception. Isn't Elder Shang in charge of the education bureau? I would like to ask if it is possible to transfer the student back to me. Xiao Xiong says. Liu Yang is the best student which he spent a lot of effort to recruit. Yet, he lost him to Zhang Xuan due to that bet. When he returned, he got angrier and angrier the more he thought about it. Eventually, he couldn't bear it anymore and came to look for Shang Bin today. Shang Bin's grandfather is Elder Shang Qian, the head of the academy's education bureau. Allocating a student to another teacher would be quite a simple feat for him. Transfer back. Shang Bin frowns. If that student willingly came under the other person's tutelage, it would be difficult. You also know that students are much more troublesome nowadays. If they are dissatisfied with anything, they would report the incident to the royal court and the teacher union, then we will. He isn't willing. I can guarantee that. Xiao Xiong hurriedly replies. Even if he isn't willing, if the other teacher is unwilling to let him go, it won't be easy as well. You know the school rules. Shang Bin waves his hand. Suddenly, he raises his head and asks, just now, you said, deception? May I know which teacher is the one who coaxed your student over? It is our academy's trash teacher, Zhang Xuan. Speaking of that young man, Xiao Xiong clenches his jaws and hatred could be plainly seen on his face. Zhang Xuan? Your student was coaxed over by him? Hearing that name once again, Shang Bin's rage burns once again. If it wasn't for this fellow, he would definitely be able to get a dinner date with his goddess. A fellow who is only fighter 3 Dan and scored a 0 for him teacher qualification examination would actually dare to disregard his authority. He is seeking for death. If it wasn't for the presence of the goddess yesterday such that it was inconvenient to resort to physical means, he would have definitely beat him until he is on the verge of dying. Yes. Since he is that kind of teacher, no humans would be willing to become his student. So, I would like to trouble Shang Xiaoye to help me bring up this matter with Elder Shang and allocate my student back. Xiao Xiong says carefully, afraid that the other party would refuse his request. There is no need to bring this up with Elder Shang, I will settle this matter for you now. Shang Bin waves his hand majestically. You are going to settle the matter for me. The other teachers might still require the help of my grandfather for the reallocation process, but since we are talking about the useless trash Zhang Xuan, why do we have to go through so much trouble? We just have to go to him straight, and if he refuses, we will cripple him. Shang Bin gestures grandly. He might be at a loss in means to deal with other teachers, but towards the one who scored a 0 for the teacher qualification examination, it is simply too easy for him to make a stand to teach him a lesson. Disregarding his weak abilities, the crux of it is that no one in the academy would possibly come in his defense. The most important point of all is that he had intended to give Zhang Xuan a good thrashing to vent his frustration, but he had been vexed over the lack of a suitable justification for it. If he were to strike without a suitable justification, he would surely leave a bad impression with Shen Bairu if she were to find out. But now, he has duped away the student of another teacher and the person in question has come over seeking for his help. He could make use of this reason to lash out at him. He didn't expect that Shang Bin would be so generous. Xiao Xiong is taken aback. There is no need for this. Come with me. If you are afraid, I will do it for you. The corners of Shang Bin's lip curl upwards as a glint of brutality flashes across his eyes. Then, I will be thanking Shang Xiaoye in advance. Xiao Xiong's eyes light up excitedly as he nods his head hurriedly. The two of them moved towards Zhang Xuan's classroom with widened strides. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the entrance of Zhang Xuan's classroom to see the mummy-like Yao Ha and the young master of the Wang family. Wang Tao, what are you doing here instead of training over at grandfather's? Shang Bin frowns. He might be the grandson of elder Shang Chen, but he is still a little off in terms of standing in comparison to Wang Tao. Shang Bin Lao Shi. Wang Tao boasts. My younger sister was due to attend lessons here. I intend to take her back. Shang Bin. Yao Ha was still considering whom he should gather intelligence on Shang Bin from when he heard that the young man before him is Shang Bin. He hurriedly lifts his head to take a good look at him. You mean Wang Ying Xiaoji? Shang Bin's face darkens. Coldness radiates out of his eyes as he declares that Zhang Xuan is really too daring. To dare to dupe even Wang Xiaoji, he must be tired of living. Looks like if I don't teach him a lesson, it would be hard to appease the crowd. Xiaoji, young mistress. Indeed. Wang Tao nods his head. Since Wang Ying Xiaoji was duped to come under his tutelage, why don't you barge in to stop him, and chose to wait here instead? Harumping, Shang Bin looks over with a puzzled expression. That. Wang Tao dares not to admit that he was thrown out. Scratching his head, just when he is perplexed over how he should answer, Yao Ha, who is beside him, says, Isn't there a rule in the academy that states that entry into a classroom is disallowed in the midst of a lesson? Thus, we could only wait outside for the lessons to end. This is. Only now does Shang Bin notice the mummy-like Yao Ha. This is the butler of City Lord Zhao of Bayu City, Yao Ha. Wang Tao hurriedly introduces him. So, it is Butler Yao. I have long heard of your name. Shang Bin nods his head and continues, There is such a rule in the academy that no one is allowed to barge into the classroom in the midst of a lesson. However, it doesn't matter in this case. You all can follow behind me to enter the classroom. Today, I will personally take care of the fellow who has no morals as a teacher and goes around conning others. All right. Hearing that he is going to make a move, Wang Tao's eyes light up and follows closely behind him. Yao Ha hesitates for a moment before following behind them. In the classroom. Hongshan 9 Dan Formula. It might be the most basic cultivation technique of Hongshan Academy, but there are quite a few problems with it. For example, the 5 students sit in the classroom, listening attentively to Zhang Xuan's explanations. Despite it only being the first lecture, they are all incomparably shocked. It is as though they have consumed ginseng fruit and is getting drunk on his words. The few students present in the classroom, with the exception of Yuan Tao, have exceptional backgrounds. They might have never gone to an academy, but they had learned everything systematically. They have undergone lectures of many different teachers and even had the privilege of having Fighter 5 Dan and 6 Dan experts offering them pointer. However, they had never been to such a lesson in their entire life. Read the latest stories in novelbian.com. The lecture gives them a feeling of enlightenment. They found themselves suddenly comprehending many things that they were perplexed in the past. The breath in their body seems to be tempted to follow the methods which the teacher is describing to them, and a sensation that they would be able to break through any time now gushes through them. The lecture is simply too well said. Hearing Zhang Xuan's lessons, they realize that even the supposed high-level teachers pale greatly in comparison to him. This is especially so for Chao Ya. As the daughter of a city lord, her father often deciphers cultivation techniques for her. Initially, she had always thought that her father is the best lecturer in the entire Tiangshuan kingdom. After all, her father's strength is clear for all to see. However, in comparison to Zhang Laoshi, she feels like a frog in the well. It is laughable. There is totally no way to compare the both of them at all. Zhang Laoshi's explanations are spot on. No matter how incredible the cultivation technique and battle technique is, he is able to immediately spot the flaws in it, causing one to be shocked and go into deep thoughts, unable to calm the agitation in them for a long period of time. Often, a single deciphering sentence of Zhang Laoshi would send them into thoughts for half a day. After they finally comprehend it after much difficulty, they would realize that he had already been talking for a long period of time and that they had missed many of the knowledge which he had imparted then. Zhang Laoshi's standards are way too high. At this moment, the 5 students finally understand how deep the foundations of battle techniques and how wide the tree of knowledge is within this young man who isn't much older than them. Previously, I laughably thought that Zhang Laoshi had simply lucked out to make my strength soar instantaneously. Only now do I realize that, given his wisdom, it is a small feat for him to accomplish such greatness. There are more than 100 methods for him to make my strength increase by a fold. The previously arrogant Liu Yang couldn't help but tremble on the spot, in comparison to him, Cao Xiong Laoshi. Sigh, I better not compare the two of them. They are at totally different heights, there is no way to compare the two of them. It is like they both exist in different worlds. It is fortunate that they made that bet, otherwise, how could I possibly meet such a great teacher? The 5 students are each listening attentively to the lecture in agitation, afraid that they would miss some important knowledge. Zia! The door to the classroom is pushed open and a few men walk in with large strides. Chapter 26, Enlightenment Will Trial. Enlightenment Will Trial. Zhang Xuan, I didn't expect that your guts would be so inflated after not meeting for a day. Walking into the room, Shang Bin surveys the surroundings and notices that the trash had managed to admit in 5 students. A savage expression flashes across his eyes as he sneers coldly, to dare to deceive Wang Ying Xiaoji, Chao Ya Xiaoji and the others, as well as to coax the student of Cao Xiong Laoshi to come under your tutelage instead. Where the hell did you find such courage? Shang Bin Laoshi? Cao Xiong Laoshi? Seeing the few people who just barged in, Zhang Xuan frowns. I am in the midst of a lesson. If there's anything you want to say, please say them after the lessons. Lessen your head. Shang Xiaoye came personally over, so what the hell are you acting so high and mighty for? Given your standards, it is already a blessing for the others to not be misguided by you, yet you talk about having lessons? You little brat who don't even know the basics, how dare to pretend like you're something big before us? Cao Xiong mocks Zhang Xuan coldly. Since the both of them are already hostile to one another, there is no need for him to put on an act anymore. Get out. You are not welcome here. Zhang Xuan narrows his eyes. You are still continuing on with the act? Zhang Xuan, do you even remember your own surname? Shang Bin laughs coldly. Quickly release Chao Ya Xiaoji and Wang Ying Xiaoji from your lessons and reallocate Liu Yang back to Cao Xiong Laoshi. If so, I might choose to back down and not teach you a lesson today. Otherwise, I'm afraid that you will have to spend this school term in a wheelchair. You want to make a move on me? Zhang Xuan glances over. The academy forbids teachers from fighting one another within its compounds. Is Shang Bin Laoshi unaware of the academy rules? The academy rules are made for humans. Against others, I would still be worried about the consequences about flouting those rules, but towards you. Hey, do you think that there would be anyone in the academy who would stand up for a trash like you? Shang Bin declares with an expression that clearly spells out that his vile intentions. I get it. Is it because I offended you with my words yesterday, that's why you are intentionally seeking trouble with me now? Aren't you afraid that Shen Bairu Laoshi would be displeased by such actions of yours? Zhang Xuan harems. Hey, at least you are well aware of it. Since I have decided to teach you a lesson, of course, I won't be worried about you talking nonsense. Shang Bin doesn't deny it, and just as he is about to gleefully step forward to teach the fellow before him a lesson, he is interrupted by another furious voice. It's you! Yao Ha's eyes turn red. Given how Zhang Xuan had offended Shang Bin yesterday and Shen Bairu Laoshi is involved in the incident as well, if Yao Ha is still unable to figure out the culprit who beat him up, even he himself would suspect that he is a fool. What? Seeing Butler Yao rage out when he is about to punish Zhang Xuan, Shang Bin turns around to look at him, bewildered. Do you think that it is possible for you to be unaware of what you have done? Before Shang Bin could react, accompanied by a loud roar, a fist smashes violently onto his face. The heck? Shang Bin could only feel everything before him turning dark. The regions around his eyes bruised up. His body staggers for a moment before falling to the ground. To dare to beat me up to such a pathetic state, I will make you suffer for it. Recalling the agony he undergone from the beating yesterday, there isn't any hesitation in Yao Ha's blows at all. Sitting onto Shang Bin's body, fist after fist come ragging onto him like a storm. Butler Yao. Everything occurred too quickly. Wang Tao and Cao Xiong is flabbergasted. Actually, they aren't the only ones who were taken aback. Even Chao Ya, Wang Ying and the others stare at one another in confusion. Just a moment ago, when these few people came over to find trouble with Zhang Laoshi, Zhang Xuan's students were still quite enraged and had intended to stand up for him. Yet, before they could do anything, the other side started fighting among themselves. Isn't this incident too bizarre? This is especially so for Chao Ya. She is well aware of the personality of Butler Yao. He is a very dignified and rational person who handles problems systematically. Otherwise, her father wouldn't have possibly allowed him to become the butler of their family. But, what happened today? Why did he start beating up Shang Bin before he could finish his words? Probably, the only one who knows what is happening is Zhang Xuan. The reason why he intentionally mentioned that he offended Shang Bin yesterday and brought up Shen Bairu's name is to remind Butler Yao of the 2 features of his attacker yesterday. In the end, just as he intended, he made a move on Shang Bin. Actually, this cannot be blamed on Butler Yao for being rash. After all, no matter who it is, if they were to be beaten up out of the blue for no good reason, they would definitely hold some resentment in their heart. Furthermore, he is of esteemed position and represents the image of Bayou City, so he had never suffered such injustice. To add on, he had been angered by Zhang Xuan multiple times these 2 days and his young mistress had been curbing him from assaulting him. Without an outlet to vent his frustration, it has been welling up in his chest. At this moment, when he has met his enemy, how could he stand it any further? Butler Yao, what are you doing? Feeling the fists crashing down onto him like raindrops, the confused Shang Bin could only feel his vision going dark. He almost threw up a mouthful of fresh blood. What is going on? This is the first time he is meeting this Butler Yao and he shouldn't have offended him before, so why the heck is he so brutal? No matter how he tries to recall, he couldn't fathom how he could have possibly offended the other party. What am I doing? Stop acting ignorant here, are you not aware of it yourself? Peng 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 peng. Butler Yao's fist came landing one after another without any moment of rest. Shang Bin is a high-level teacher and has reached the level of Fighter 5 Dan Dingley realm. Even so, there is still a distance between him and Yao Ha's 6 Dan Pixu realm. He isn't even a match for Yao Ha in a normal battle, needless to say, a sudden assault. He is done in with just a single punch. Butler Yao, calm down, calm down. We can talk things through calmly. Only now then do Cao Xiong and Wang Tao regain their senses and they hurriedly pull the both of them apart. At this moment, Shang Bin's handsome face is swollen to the point that there is no difference between it and a pig's head. Damn it! Shang Bin is about to explode from anger. Initially, he had intended to teach Zhang Xuan a lesson but never in his dreams did he expect the Butler Yao from Bayou City to suddenly go insane and assault him. At this moment, all of his accumulated rage channels onto towards Butler Yao. No matter what personal grudges the few of you may hold among yourselves, please settle it outside the classroom. This isn't a location for you all to fight it out. If you all do not leave now and continue to interrupt my lessons, I will inform the Central Education Bureau and call them over. Zhang Xuan speaks up. Fine. Just you all wait. Hearing that he would inform the Central Education Bureau, Shang Bin turns around and walks away. If news were to spread about his current state, how could still possibly have the face to meet others? He must not allow any teachers to see him in his current state. Shang Shaoye. Shang Shaoye. Shaoye, young master. Initially, Cao Xiong thought that it would be an easy task. With Shang Shaoye making a move personally, he would definitely be able to get Zhang Xuan to return his student. However, never in his dreams did he expect to see such a situation occurring. Cao Xiong hurriedly follows behind him. Soon, the two of them disappear from view. Uncle Yao, what are you doing? After the two of them left, Chao Ya walks up and looks at her Uncle Yao, her face flushed red from anger. This Uncle Yao was normal in the past, so why is he getting more and more overboard nowadays? Young mistress, Yao Ha doesn't know how he should reply to Chao Ya's words. After all, he can't possibly say that he had intended to sneak over to Zhang Xuan's dormitory in an attempt to castrate him but ended up getting bashed up by Shang Bin instead, and he did a moment ago was to exact vengeance for that. Alright, I am still in the midst of the lesson. I would have to ask for the rest of you to leave. Zhang Xuan gestures. After hesitating for a moment, Yao Ha, Wang Tao and Old Liu leave the classroom yet again. Explore new ovels on novelby.com. Damn it. After leaving Zhang Xuan's classroom, Shang Bin cries out in anger that Yao Ha must be taught a lesson. Zhang Xuan as well. To dare to look at me contemptuously, he must be punished. As the grandson of an elder, his life has been smooth sailing all along. When had he ever suffered such injustice? Furthermore, the worst of it all is that he didn't even know the reason behind it. He was in the midst of talking when the other party suddenly rushed up to assault him in the blink of an eye. He finds the scenario incomprehensible. That Yao Ha must be an accomplice of Zhang Xuan. Otherwise, why would he make a move on Shang Shaoye? I think he must have been ordered to do so. Cao Xiong says. No doubt, that must be it. Shang Bin agrees. He had never offended Yao Ha, but the other party made a move on him without any warnings. It must be due to his declaration of wanting to teach Zhang Xuan a lesson. Are you sure that Liu Yang did not willingly acknowledge Zhang Xuan as his teacher? After a while, Shang Bin calms down and turns around to ask. I can ascertain that he didn't do it out of his own free will. Recalling the unwillingness on Liu Yang's face when he left yesterday, Cao Xiong replies confidently. Great. If you are that sure of it, go and apply for a enlightenment will trial. Shang Bin says. Enlightenment will trial? This, Cao Xiong's face darkens. Enlightenment will trial is a special method to determine the allocation of a student who is vied by multiple teachers when the academy is unable to make a judgment. The student would undergo the trial of the enlightenment will tower, and the enlightenment will tower will reflect his true thoughts in the form of a confidence meter. If the student is proven to be unwilling to come under the tutelage of the teacher of the student will be punished. On the other hand, if it is proven that the one who applied for the enlightenment will trial is making a false report, he would receive an equivalent punishment. This is the final resort used when there is truly no means to determine the allocation of the student. Cao Xiong is aware of it, but he feels that things have yet to get to such an irreconcilable point. Why? Are you lying to me? Could it be that the fellow joined Zhang Xuan willingly? Looking at Cao Xiong's hesitant face, Zhang Bin's face darkens even further. No, he definitely did not join willingly. I will apply now. I will make sure Zhang Xuan will get what he deserves. Cao Xiong nods his head. Then hurry up. Looking at his compliance, Zhang Bin nods his head in satisfaction. When you are applying for it, make sure to raise the punishment to the maximum. This way, Zhang Xuan would be in for a tough time, perhaps he might even get fired. Punishment can be raised based on the applier's request. The higher the stakes are, the heavier the penalty on the side who fails the trial. All right. Cao Xiong's eyes light up with excitement as he visions the image of Zhang Xuan getting fired. Chapter 27, The Frenzied Wang Clan. All right, we will end the lessons here. Everyone, remember to try to comprehend the contents of this lesson when you get back. If there is anything you are unsure of, you can come over to me to clarify it. Zhang Xuan gestures. Yes. The 5 students answers in chorus before leaving the classroom. They didn't spend a long time immersed in the lesson, and there were even a couple of times where someone barged in to create trouble, but they still benefited greatly from it. It can even be said that if they were to persist on to try to comprehend what was taught, their cultivation would surely rise by leaps and bounds. The 5 of them leave the room excitedly. The moment Wang Ying walks out, her elder brother, Wang Tao, grabs her. Go, let's return back to our clan. Return back to our clan? Big brother, why must we return? Wang Ying is taken aback. HMPH, you refuse to listen to the words of your elder brother and chose to acknowledge the worst teacher in the academy as your teacher. I have already reported this matter to father and he says that he would like to talk to you personally. Wang Tao harums. The first time he entered the classroom, he was thrown out. The second time, he returned without accomplishing anything. Judging from the expression on his younger sister, he knows that he would be unable to convince her to change her mind. Thus, he sent old Liu back to inform the clan of the matter. He intends to get their father to persuade her. His younger sister's personality might be pure and innocent, but she still listens rather obediently to the words of their father. Father. Fright could be seen on Wang Ying's face. Their father is the current clan head of the Wang clan, Wang Hong. He is a very strict person who rarely smiles, even his children tremble before his presence. Zhang Xuan Laoshi actually isn't the way that you all put him out to be. His lectures are very good. Wang Ying tries to retort. HMPH, say those words to father and see if he believes it. Wang Tao waves his hand and without a second word, he pulls his younger sister out of the academy. Hongshan Academy and the Wang clan are both in Tianshuan city and they aren't too far apart from one another. In a short moment, the 2 siblings reach their destination and Wang Tao pulls Wang Ying to their father's study. Enter. The cold and strict voice of clan head Wang Hong sounds out. Yes. Wang Ying tremors from fright upon hearing that voice. Clenching her jaws, she follows closely behind her elder brother into the room. In the study, clan head Wang Hong is sitting at the utmost center of the room. The few sitting behind him are the influential elders within the clan. There is also one youth who is sitting by the side. Wang Ying recognizes the youth as the grandson of the second elder, Wang Yan. She went to the Hongshan Academy at the same time as Wang Yan. In the end, the latter managed to acknowledge the renowned Lu Xuan Laoshi as his teacher, whereas she acknowledged the academy's worst reputed teacher Zhang Xuan. Father. The tense atmosphere in the study makes Wang Ying dare not to breathe heavily. Kneel down. Clan head Wang Hong's face darkens. The teacher plays an utmost role on one's route of cultivation. Before entering the academy, he has reminded her time and time again to acknowledge Lu Xuan as her teacher. Yet, this lass. Why can't you acknowledge anyone else? Why must you choose the worst one in the whole academy? When he heard that news, he almost died from sheer anger. Putong. Wang Ying shivers as she kneels down. Do you admit your mistake? Wang Hong asks coldly. I. HMPH, acknowledging one's teacher should be based on an individual's free will, so I didn't want to say too much about it, but are you unaware of the standards of this Zhang Xuan Laoshi? The one who scored the worst for the teacher qualification examination and even left a student berserk. Does someone like that have the qualifications to become your teacher? Clenhead Wang Hong says with a grave expression on his face. If you were unaware of the situation and were deceived by him, I would still turn a blind eye to it, but why didn't you listen to your brother's words? I heard that your elder brother asked you to withdraw from his lessons, but you refuted him? What are you trying to do? Clenhead Wang Hong's voice becomes louder and louder, to the point that the study tremors with creaking noises. Hearing the reprimand of her father, Wang Ying's face turns red before she grits her jade teeth and says, Father, Zhang Xuan Laoshi isn't as bad as the rumors put him out to be. He is a talented teacher, just that he keeps a low profile. I want to be under his tutelage, I will not withdraw from his lessons. She benefited greatly from just a single lesson. Wang Ying knows that coming under the tutelage of Zhang Xuan is an opportunity for her. If she were to miss this chance, she would definitely regret it for the rest of her life. A talented teacher? Haha, a fellow who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination? Wang Ying, you should listen to the advice of the clan head, don't be deceived by that Zhang Xuan. You should learn from Wang Yan. He might have only gone on one lesson, but his strength has already increased by 40%. The guidance of Lu Xuan Laoshi is definitely top-notch in the entire academy. Hearing the words of the young lady, the other elders laugh as they shake their head. There isn't a single person in Tianchuan city who is unaware of Zhang Xuan's reputation. Yet, you say that he is a talented teacher. What kind of joke is this? You. Hearing the words of his daughter, Clanhead Wang Hong is incensed. I don't care what you say, you have to withdraw from his lessons today. Otherwise, don't even think about stepping into this house ever again. I don't agree with your decision. Wang Ying may seem weak, but she has a stubborn temperament. She stands up and says indignantly, you all have never listened into Zhang Xuan Laoshi's lessons, so what rights do you all have to say that his lessons are subpar? What rights do you all have to force me to withdraw from his lessons? We might not have listened into his lessons before, but do you think it is possible for his reputation and teacher qualification examination results to be falsified? An elder replies. Wang Ying Xiaoji, stop being stubborn. There are so many students who can testify for whether his lessons are good or not. Do you think that you are the only smart one of the bunch? Another elder states. Xiaoji, young mistress. I don't know whether the teacher qualification examination results are falsified or not, but I know that he has treated my legs and gave me pointers for my cultivation. I can easily execute a might that is 1-fold greater than previously. Wang Ying declares. Treated your legs? What kind of joke is this? Even Master Yuanyu is unable to do anything about your legs. Yet, you claim that a fellow who scored 0 for the teacher qualification examination is able to treat it. Wang Ying Xiaoji, even if you wish to lie in his stead, you should say something that is more believable. Everyone in the clan is aware of Wang Ying's leg injury. Hearing her words, a few of the elders scoff coldly. If you all don't believe me, I will prove it to you all. Seeing the looks of disbelief on the elders' faces, Wang Ying doesn't continue arguing and instead, walks over to the strength measuring rock pillar and sends a kick towards it. Peng! The rock pillar shakes and a string of numbers appear. 205. What? Seeing this sight, Clenhead Wang Hong's eyes narrow subconsciously. The few elders who were reprimanding Wang Ying a moment ago are also taken aback as their lips tremble from shock. The few elders here had specially looked into the injury of Wang Ying's legs and had deduced that it is impossible to treat it. They concluded that it would be impossible to exert strength in them, and just the fact that she is able to walk normally is already a blessing. Yet, to wield 205 kilograms behind such legs? How? How is this possible? After kicking the pillar, Wang Ying didn't stop. She turns around and strikes on the pillar with a fist. Weng! Numbers display on the rock pillar. 120. A force of 120 kilograms behind her fists. You are still Juxi Realm primary stage. I thought you were only able to hit 53 kilograms when you left yesterday? How could it be possible for you to hit 120 kilograms? Clenhead Wang Hong abruptly stands up as his voice quivers in agitation. Fighter 1 Dan Juxi Realm, cultivators would learn innate breathing and sensing of spirit in the air. Also, they would gain the ability to look into their body and control the flow of spirit energy in their body with their mind. They would have a strength of 50 kilograms in their primary stage, 70 kilograms in the intermediate stage, 90 kilograms in the advanced stage and 110 kilograms at the pinnacle. This is the mass that a cultivator would be able to carry with their present strength. It is normal for the strength behind their fist to be slightly lower or higher than the strength attributed to their level of cultivation. Normally, it would already be incredible to achieve an increase of 20% to 30% around that level. Even for a renowned teacher like Zhang Xuan, he could only induce an improvement of 40%. Despite not breaking through in her cultivation, being still in Juxi realm primary stage, she is able to hit with a force of 120 kilograms, even stronger than someone at Juxi realm pinnacle. This means that her strength enhancement is greater than a single fold, that is too formidable. I only improved to such an extent due to Zhang Xuan Laoxi's guidance. After hitting the pillar, Wang Ying stops and declares calmly. With just a slight pointer, he is able to induce such a great improvement? Furthermore, treating your legs as well. Clan leader Wang Hong is in a state of disbelief. In a few short steps, he walks to the front of his daughter. With a single look, he immediately understands that his daughter's legs are truly cured. As the worst teacher in the entire academy, not only was he able to treat an injury Master Yuan Yu is unable to cure, he was even to induce a massive improvement through a short moment of guidance. Is this for real? Can you tell us a little about the contents of the lessons he went through today? What did he talk about? After a short period of shock, clan head Wang Hong can't resist asking. All right. Today, Cheng Laoshi talked about cultivation technique. However, as what he talked about was too profound, I could only remember less than a tenth of it. This is what he said. After hesitating for a moment, she mentions everything that she recalls in her mind. Gathering one's breath and nourishing it. To think that there would be such a profound theory behind a simple Juxi realm. This is too incredible. If only I had undergone such lessons back then, I wouldn't be stuck in such a realm, unable to advance ahead. This is truly the theory derived from a true master. I am enlightened. Just by repeating a few sentences, the clan head and the elders in the room seem to have gone into a daze, as though they are drunk on those words, on the verge of going frenzied. To be able to become the clan head and an elder of a prestigious clan, they all possess high levels of cultivation, even the weakest of them are fighters 6 Dan Pixu realm experts. After cultivating for so many years, they have a higher level of enlightenment towards cultivation and they understand much more about it. Although Wang Ying is only reciting those words without understanding the underlying theories behind them, to them, those words are no different from the voice of God. It solves many of the mysteries that they were unable to decipher before in an instant and they feel refreshed. He is truly a master. No, not even a master is able to explain such profound and mystical theories. Clan head Wang Hong's eyes radiate a bright light and his breath quickens in agitation. Father, father. Seeing her father on the verge of going into a frenzy, Wang Ying tries to pull him back. Ying you must not withdraw from this Cheng Laoshi's lesson by all costs. You must learn from him diligently. After clan head Wang Hong's consciousness is pulled back from a mystical realm, Form looks at Wang Ying with a solemn expression and says. But father, you just said that. She didn't expect that her father, who tends to be conservative, would change his mind so quickly, to the extent that she is unable to adapt to it on the spot. Father didn't know that Cheng Laoshi would be so incredible. Oh, right. At this point, clan head Wang Hong's face has traces of excitement and anticipation on his face as he asks, Ying can you ask your Cheng Laoshi whether he is still accepting student? Let Wang Yan and Tao learn from him as well. Actually, why don't I become his student as well? Clan head, as the leader of the Wang clan, how could you become the student of the low-level teacher in the academy? If word were to spread, how can our Wang clan continue to uphold our dignity in Tianquan city? Before clan head Wang Hong could finish his words, he is interrupted by the words of another elder. After reprimanding the clan head, the elder turns over with a bundle of smiles and says, Look, I am only a normal elder and I don't represent the image of the Wang clan. If it is still unacceptable, I can even resign from my position of an elder. So, can you all help me ask him if I am able to acknowledge him as my teacher? Wang Tao, Wang Ying and Wang Yan. Clan head Wang Hong. Singer, Tao This is quite a close way to address one's sons and daughters, sometimes even close nephews etc. Check out LT St VL on Novel Bin. CM. Chapter 28, Enraged Elder Mo. Enraged Elder Mo. Zhang Xuan isn't aware of the events that occurred in the Wang clan. After the lesson ended, he walks towards the compendium pavilion. My cultivation might have progressed significantly, but I still don't have an in-depth understanding of battle techniques and such. I should quickly look into them. Also, I should also take a look at the 1 Dan and 2 Dan cultivation techniques. Otherwise, if I were to go the lessons without knowing anything, I would definitely give myself away. Zhang Xuan's had multiple breakthroughs in his cultivation yesterday night, causing his strength has soared significantly. However, his knowledge on battle techniques and such are severely lacking. Furthermore, he doesn't have an in-depth knowledge of the 1 Dan and 2 Dan cultivation techniques. For example, when he was offering pointers to Zhao Ya earlier today, he didn't know what kind of cultivation technique he should have imparted her to resolve the problem of her pure yin body. This is the ideal time to do a bit of research and prepare for the next lesson. Otherwise, if he is unable to answer the questions of his students, he would expose his ignorance. Elder Mo. Arriving at the compendium pavilion again, Elder Mo is still guarding the entrance to it. What are you here for? Yesterday, this fellow, in pursuit of his vanity, came here to make a mess, so Elder Mo had a bad impression of him. Seeing how he is here today again, he couldn't help but frown. I would like to see the manuals on battle techniques. Zhang Xuan boasts. Battle techniques? One's cultivation level is the core of one's strength. Instead of training properly with your cultivation technique, you just had to learn from the negative examples of others, pursuing vanity, enjoying the pleasures of the illusion and slacking about. Today, you don't have to think about entering the compendium pavilion. Elder Mo waves his hand to chase him away. In his opinion, Zhang Xuan's purpose here isn't even to read the books. Rather, he is here to flip through them to remember a few distinguished points in them to put up a knowledgeable image. The greatest taboo in the guidance of one's student is to impart incomplete knowledge. When your pail of knowledge is only half full, it is easy for one's student's cultivation to go berserk through misguidance. Yesterday, Zhang Xuan was here twice and both times, he was only casually flipping through the manuals. Given his speed, he probably doesn't even remember the names of the book, needless to say remembering them. What else can his actions represent, other than his pursuit of vanity? The compendium pavilion is a location for teachers to research and study at. How can such a person be allowed entry? I pursue vanity and enjoy the pleasures of the illusion? Zhang Xuan blinks and confusion could be seen in his eyes. Why would he say such words? He couldn't resist asking, Elder Mo, I am really here to learn and not to create trouble. Da. Just as he is in the midst of clarifying the situation, footsteps could be heard from his back and an elegant voice sounds out. Elder Mo, I will be going in to grab a few books. Turning around to take a look, it is the goddess teacher he met yesterday, Shen Bairu. At this current moment, Shen Bairu is dressed in light purple. Her slender body accompanied by her incredible figure and her flawless face brought out an exquisite and refined aura which radiates her surroundings. Oh, it is Shen Laoshi. Go on in. Seeing that it is her, Elder Mo doesn't even try to stop her in the least. Not only is Shen Bairu beautiful, she is also a reputable genius among the teachers. Despite being just 20-year-old, she has already reached Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle, just a step away from Pixu Realm. Thank you, Elder Mo. She nods her head elegantly. Turning around, she notices Zhang Xuan, who is just standing by the side, and couldn't help but to be a little surprised. In the past, although Zhang Xuan had never confessed to her, he would blush upon catching sight of her and would be unable to speak in front of her, bashful like a lady. Even the densest of people could tell that something was amiss. Find new stories on novelbin.com. Initially, she thought that this would be the case this time as well. However, he only takes a glance at her before turning around, the adoration he held for her in the past totally absent in those clear eyes of his that resemble the pure spring water, as though he is completely immune to her beauty. The most important point of all is that Zhang Xuan isn't strong, and he scored badly for his teacher qualification examination as well. As a result, he would always feel inferior upon seeing other teachers, causing him possess an unconfident disposition from his lack of self-esteem. However, at this moment, just by standing there, he looks dignified with the aura of an extraordinary person. Just by looking at his disposition itself, he is a completely different person from how he was in the past. Recalling the situation when they met yesterday, he even dared to refute Shang Bin straight on. Shen Bairu couldn't help but feel bewildered. When did that awkward young man who had an inferiority complex change so much? Elder Mo, I am also here to browse through the books. Why is she allowed to enter while I am denied entry? Zhang Xuan is oblivious to the thoughts of the other party and could only gesture helplessly. Despite being both teachers, he is discriminated even in the privilege to browse through books. What a lark! Shen Laoshi is entering the pavilion to study. As for what you are going in for, you should be more than aware of it. Do you still need me to point it out for you? Elder Mo harums coldly. There are only manuals inside, what else could I be doing inside? With a bitter smile, Zhang Xuan shakes his head. Of course I am entering the pavilion to read books and to enhance my knowledge. Enhance your knowledge? HMPH. Elder Mo is displeased. Flipping through books non-stop, not even stopping in the midst to read through them properly, and you call it studying? Every single cultivation technique inside is incomparably precious. You can't possibly expect to enhance your knowledge by leaps and bounds just by flipping through tons of books without even jotting down notes. How could you possibly study like this? Elder Mo. Just as he is about to continue explaining, Shen Pairu smiles faintly, her smile reminiscent of the blooming of a flower, as she says, Cheng Laoshi might really be here to learn. So, why don't you just let him enter? If he were to be stopped here like this, it wouldn't leave a good impression on the other teachers. Since Shen Laoshi pleaded on your account, I will allow you to enter. However, I will tell you in advance first. If you want to look through the books, look through them properly. If I see you wandering around in there and putting up a show, just wait and see how I will punish you. Elder Mo gestures. You have my gratitude. Zhang Xuan nods his head, then cups his hand towards Shen Pairu to show his appreciation for her help before walking into the compendium pavilion. Initially, Shen Pairu thought that since she helped him, he would make use of the opportunity to strike up a conversation with her. Yet, he simply turned around to leave, leaving Shen Pairu a little stunned. Although she is a little surprised, she didn't pay much heed to it and follows behind him into the compendium pavilion. It was just a casual whim of hers to help Zhang Xuan, there wasn't any special reason or intention behind her action. Since the other party didn't want to chat with her, she is also happy to be spared the conversation. To think that coming into the compendium pavilion would be so troublesome. The next time, I probably won't be able to enter anymore. Standing in front of the bookshelves, Zhang Xuan did not rush to flip through the books and instead, scratches his head. He didn't know why did Elder Mo stop him, but he is sure that it has something to do with his identity as the worst teacher in the academy. The identity is awkward no matter where he goes. Not just on the recruitment of students, even his colleagues despise him. The main reason why he is able to enter this time is thanks to Shen Pairu's words. However, what about the next time? This compendium pavilion isn't very big anyway. If I hurry up, I might be able to browse through it all within today. This way, I won't need to enter the next time. This compendium pavilion isn't very big anyway. If I hurry up, I might be able to browse through it all within today. This way, I won't need to enter the next time. Suddenly, a thought flashes through his mind. Since Elder Mo is determined to stop him, he should just make it so that he would not need to come anymore in the future. Given the size of the library, there are hundreds of thousands of books in here. Even if one were to spend their entire lives here, they probably wouldn't be able to finish reading through them. However, he is different. No matter what kind of books it is, as long as he flips through it, he would be able to compile an identical book of it in the Library of Heaven's Path with its flaws recorded in it. If he were to move quickly, it shouldn't be impossible for him to imprint all of these books into his head within a single day. Once he succeeds, he wouldn't need to go through so much trouble to come here to look for books. Begin. The moment the thought pops into his mind, Zhang Xuan doesn't dawdle any longer and immediately walks towards the first bookshelf. Not concerned with what books they are, he casually grabs a handful of them and voila, flips through them. Hoo. Just as he expected, the Library of Heaven's Path jolts and an identical book as the one in his hands appears on the bookshelf in it. That's the way to go. After realizing that it is possible to compile multiple books simultaneously, he walks forward and grabs several books at once and imprints them into his head concurrently. Hualala! The sound of footsteps and flipping of books echoes in the compendium pavilion. That fellow, he still dares to claim otherwise, that he isn't putting on a show in pursuit for vanity? Elder Mo, who is outside guarding the library, has been paying attention to Zhang Xuan from the moment he enters the library. The previous time, that fellow only flipped through a book at a time before putting it back. Although it is clear to see that he isn't really serious about it, at least it still looks acceptable. Now, he is taking dozens of books at once and playing with them, placing it back in the shelves before he could even see the titles clearly. What the heck is he doing? Is he here to read books or to choose cabbage? Furthermore, after looking at the manuals which the other party is looking through, he feels a spell of giddiness. Cultivation of Wisteria, basics to the relationship of a male and female, the way of amalgamating yin and yang, refining green emerald pill, and the important aspects one should take note of in forging equipment. There are books on all kinds of fields. Cultivation technique, battle technique, cultivation of medical herbs, even on male-female relationship. As long as it is a book, there is nothing that this fellow would not flip through. Everyone has their own shortcomings and merits and there are limits to a person's energy. It is impossible for one to master every single field. Thus, one has to choose properly on which book they should look through. However, this fellow flips through every single book without any hesitation. Is he sure that he isn't here to create trouble? He must be here to cause trouble. When he leaves, I will make sure to teach him a lesson. Elder Mo's face darkens as he harangues coldly. Chapter 29, You Must Be Sick. Shen Bairu, who is the compendium pavilion as well, hears the continuous sounds of footsteps and flipping of books. Initially, she didn't think much into, but as time passed, she started to feel that something is amiss with the situation. One would need to read a book slowly to comprehend its contents. How can it be possible for anyone to flip through it so quickly? Bewildered, she couldn't resist walking over to take a look. After which, she sees Zhang Xuan flipping the books from the first shelf. It is very apparent to see that he isn't reading through the contents of the books, but more like looking for something. Is this the reason why Elder Mo denied him entry? After watching for a moment, she realizes that the other party doesn't have the intention to stop. Jideng, Shen Bairu's heart beats. Previously, the reason why she couldn't resist speaking out to help him upon seeing the difference between the current him and his previous self is because she wants him to work hard so as to be freed from his current awkward position. However, she would have never imagined that this fellow isn't here to study but to look for something. This is the compendium pavilion. Every day, there are innumerable teachers who come in, so it is impossible for there to be anything valuable hidden here. Flipping through these books so casually is almost a blasphemy to this compendium pavilion. How repulsive. Perhaps. He knew that I would be coming to the compendium pavilion today, so he intentionally waited outside then came in to make such a ruckus to capture my attention. HMPH, this would only provoke my ire. The image of the young man in Shen Bairu's heart falls to the pits. Due to her beauty, many people have tried many ways to get on her good side, as well as to attract her attention. In her opinion, Zhang Xuan isn't even trying to look through the books. Rather, he is intentionally making those noises to change her opinion of him. In reality, she hates it when people make up this kind of show. After looking at her a moment longer, she ascertains her opinion. If he is truly here to browse through the books, how could he possibly be reading books of all genres? Furthermore, to be flipping through them at such rapid speed, he is probably unable to even ascertain the name of the manual, needless to say, its contents. HMPH. With a darkened expression on her beautiful face, she walks over to Zhang Xuan. Zhang Laoshi, what are you doing? Reading books. Zhang Xuan doesn't realize that his actions have already been labeled as putting up a show, and replies casually without raising his head. Reading books? HMPH. Shen Bairu harums coldly. Coldness emanates from her jade-like face as she says, if you think that your actions are cool and would attract my attention, please retract those immature thoughts of yours. I, Shen Bairu, do not fall for such petty tricks. Furthermore, your actions will only incur my irritation. Oh. All right. Zhang Xuan continues flipping through his books. He intends to imprint all of the manuals in the compendium pavilion onto the Library of Heaven's Path by today, and time is a little tight for him, so he doesn't have the effort to spare to be chatting with others. Besides, in his opinion, the other party is simply being too self-important. What business does she have to do with what he is doing? You might be truly pretty, but it isn't like I have yet to meet a beautiful woman like you. In the previous world, in the era of information, there are all kinds of beauties stored in the hard disk. Furthermore, they are skilled in blowing, pulling, playing and singing. A cold beauty like you does not hold much interest to me. I don't have the energy to think of ways to attract your attention. Since you understand it, please leave this compendium library. Stop wasting your effort here. Seeing how the young man's head remains lowered, still putting on a show, Shen Bairu turns and gestures him to leave. Ding 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 ding. The sound of the footsteps of the young man leaving. This is more like it. Seeing how he gives up readily, Shen Bairu nods her head in satisfaction. Just as she is about to continue to read her book, she hears the sound of the flipping of books echoing in the library once again. Hualala! Hualalala! Turning her head to take a look, she realizes that the young man had no intention to leave. You! Shen Bairu almost explodes from anger. Are you done yet? I have already said that doing this will just incur my irritation, yet you still persist in doing so. Is there a point to it? At this point, her slim figure straightens and she walks up to Zhang Xuan once again, and disgust could be clearly seen in her pitch-black pupils. Did you not hear my words? The more you behave like this, the more disgusted I would be with you. You won't earn my fancy like this. Are you sick? Seeing the other party coming over to bother him again, Zhang Xuan is a little irritated. He stops in his actions and says, you read your own stuff while I read my own. If you are really bored, you can squat by a corner and draw circles. Don't bother me here. It is not like I have never met a beautiful lady in my life before. Why are you acting so haughtily? You. She didn't expect the young man to speak like this. Shen Bairu feels her sight blurring and she almost dies from the overwhelming rage welling in her. Who is she? Hongshan Academy's #1 beauty. Blessed with great talent and looks, almost all of the teachers and students in the academy regard her as a goddess. Before her, they would act respectfully, not daring to even speak loudly for fear of offending her. Yet, you dare to say, "I am sick." Even asking me to squat at a corner to draw circles? I am a lady, all right? Draw circles, draw your mom's fat head. Shenbairu feels a heavy and stuffy sensation on her chest that she is unable to relieve. Hualala. Hualalala. Her face flashes red from anger. Just as she is about to reprimand the other party, she realizes that the young man has gone back to flipping through the books after being done with his words, not even sparing her an additional glance. Fine, fine. Continue putting on an act. See how I will reveal your true colors. Liu Luo, Shenbairu grits her teeth tightly and stomps her leg. This is the first time that a man has talked to her in such a manner. Fine, aren't you putting on an act of browsing through the books now? Let's see how long you can put up with it. When you are finally unable to continue on, I will expose you and leave you embarrassed. Then, Shenbairu no longer bothers herself with Zhang Xuan and instead, angrily walks back to the manual she had looked for previously and casually takes it out. Then, sitting in a corner in the room, she starts copying it down. Initially, her mood was quite good today and she intended to study for quite a while to boost her knowledge. Yet, never in her dreams would she expect to meet such an infuriating fellow. In the midst of copying down her notes, she sneaks glances periodically towards him. The young man still continues flipping through all of the books with the same speed, seemingly adamant to leave no book unturned. It seems that as long as it is a book of the Compendium Pavilion, he would surely flip through it once. HMPH. Let's see how long you can keep up the act for. After being rebuked by Zhang Xuan, Shenbairu no longer retains her calmness from before and she intends to make things difficult for him. As she copies down her notes slowly, she waits for the moment when the other party is unable to keep up with the act. However, what that leaves her bewildered is that the young man repeats his actions over and over again with the same astonishing speed. From the very first bookshelf, he moves from one row to another, flipping through the books, from afternoon to night, not even sparing a single minute to rest. It has already been 6 to 7 hours but yet the fellow is still persisting on with the same motion. Even Shenbairu finds it inconceivable at this point. If his aim was to attract her attention, she has already clearly told him that she detests such actions, so he should have stopped then. So, how is it possible for him to continue flipping through like this? Not to mention, for such a long period of time? Could this fellow's brain be convulsing or something? Has his cultivation went berserk and he himself became insane? Suddenly, a thought pops up in her head. She has heard that when one's cultivation goes berserk, one would start to do many abnormal actions. Could it be that flipping through books non-stop here be one of this kind of abnormal actions? She is looking at the young man with a bizarre expression as she starts to think that the young man is abnormal when she notices that Zhang Xuan stopping in his actions after flipping through the books in the final row. So much knowledge. After a consecutive 6 to 7 hours of hard work, he has finally imprinted all of the books in Hongshan Academy's Teacher Compendium Pavilion in the Library of Heaven's Path in his head. New N0 Whale chapters are published on N0VE, Pound, I, N, Co. M. Through the compilation of flaws and strengths from the Library of Heaven's Path towards each individual book, he gains a certain level of understanding towards the cultivation technique, battle technique, pills, equipment forging, formations and such. With Zhao Ya's Pyoyan body, she should cultivate this manual. However, before that, I have to do some preparations. After imprinting the entire Compendium Pavilion, he finally understands how he should solve the problem with Zhao Ya's physical body. He couldn't resist heaving a breath of relief. He has even found out the loopholes and incomplete portions in the previous 3 dan of his cultivation. As long as he finds some time to recultivate through them, he can correct and perfect them. Gugugu. When he is finally finished, he feels an ache in his stomach. After working for such a long period of time, his hunger pangs has already long struck, just that he was oblivious to it then. Shaking his head, he starts to walk towards the exit of the Compendium Pavilion. However, he had only taken a few steps when he sees Shenbairu standing before him, looking at him with a cold gaze. To think that this woman would still be here after he has flipped through the books for 6 to 7 hours. Can't be bothered with such a self-important fellow, Zhang Xuan continues walking towards the exit of the Compendium Pavilion. Stop it right there. When he has just walked through the exit, he hears Elder Mo bellowing at him. At this very instant, Elder Mo's face darkens to the point that it seems like the coalescence of numerous storm clouds, ready to explode at any moment. He has tolerated this young man for very long. At this moment, there is only a thought in his head. Troublemaker, troublemaker, and troublemaker. Elder Mo. Zhang Xuan looks at him with a puzzled expression. HMPH, Zhang Xuan Lao Shi. Elder Mo's face is cold. With an intentionally harsher tone, he says, "You came to the Compendium Pavilion not to study, but to intentionally cause trouble. From now on, the Compendium Pavilion no longer welcomes you. If you step in here once more, I will break your legs." Causing trouble? Elder Mo, where did all these come from? I have been looking through the books seriously. How did I become a troublemaker? Although he had already duplicated an identical Compendium Pavilion in his head and no longer has to come here, he still feels displeased upon hearing those words. Why is it that when other people are here, you think of them as studying, but when I am here, you think of me as a troublemaker? What kind of logic is this? Aren't you being too unreasonable? Chapter 30, Shen Bairu's Shock. Reading seriously? A vine tugs on Elder Mo's beard and his face looks so red that it might explode at any moment. Not jotting down notes to decipher its content and simply flipping the books randomly. Tell me, who reads the way you do? Must reading involve jotting down notes to decipher its contents? Only now does Zhang Xuan understand why the other party is so mad. He is at a loss to respond. In his previous life, he was a librarian and his job scope was similar to that of Elder Mo's. However, back then, as long as one holds a borrowing pass, he would be able to enter the premises and no one would bother whether he is eating or drinking inside. As long as one doesn't kill someone or set the place on fire, he is basically free to do as he pleases. Initially, he thought that Elder No was making things difficult for him due to his previous self's astounding results at the teacher qualification examination. After such a farce, the reason ends up to be just this. These books are obtained through the relentless efforts of the Academy's predecessor and every single one of them is the product of their blood, sweat and tears. If you are not here to study, then don't touch them. Flipping through them the way you do, what can you be doing other than creating trouble? Elder Mo flings his hands in anger. Fine, if you insist that I'm creating trouble, then just take it to be so. Zhang Xuan wants to explain but after thinking it through for a moment, he shakes his head and decides otherwise. The matter with the Library of Heaven's path must not be revealed. This also means that he would be unable to explain his actions of flipping through those books frenziedly. Since he won't be here in the future anyway, there is no need for him to clarify it. Besides, his reputation is already as bad as it is, it doesn't matter whether it is sullied further or not. At least you are willing to admit to it. Now, scram. Upon his admittance, intense loath can be seen in Elder Mo's eyes. He waves his hands, gesturing him to leave. I'll be taking my leave. Just as he is about to leave, a pleasant aroma surges into his surroundings and a figure appears before him. Blocking his path, Shen Bairu says, "Wait a minute. What is it now?" Zhang Xuan looks at her helplessly. "You read your own book while I read mine. Surely I didn't bother you then." HMPH. Normally, when she stops someone else, the other party would be leaping in joy. Yet, this fellow looks at her with an annoyed expression. Shen Bairu frowns, "It isn't about that. Didn't you say that you were reading books in there? After reading for such a long period, surely you would remember some of its contents." "What do you mean?" Not sure what kind of tricks this woman is playing now, Zhang Xuan stares at her doubtfully. "It's simple. I noticed that you read 8 Methods of Pill Refinement. It just happens that there are some parts of it that I am unable to comprehend, so I would like to consult you on it. Surely you won't reject my request?" Shen Bairu asks. Actually, her plan is simple. Isn't this fellow before her putting on an act by flipping through all those books? Thus, if she questions him on the book and he is unable to answer her queries, his lie will be exposed. 8 Methods of Pill Refinement. Zhang Xuan's consciousness jolts as the book appears in his mind. Indeed, he had flipped through this book previously. If there's anything you are unsure of, feel free to ask and I will answer your queries. However, I have to eat soon and don't have much time to spare, so do hurry up. You. Clenching her fists tightly, Shen Bairu almost faints from anger. His tone is as though a frustrated teacher answering the questions of a student seeking clarification. Firstly, I am a beauty. Secondly, I am a high-level teacher and one of the popular teachers of the school. If I ask you a question, it is obvious that I am testing your standards. Why does it sound like I am learning from you? Everyone has a field of specialty that expertise in, so teachers in the academy often consult one another to learn from each other. However, as a fellow who scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination, what makes you think that you are qualified for me to be consulting you? Suppressing the rage within her that is on the verge of erupting, Shen Bairu grinds her teeth. Just a moment ago, I read a phrase in the book, if the herbs scatter, it would be difficult for the pill to form. If the herbs agglutinate, a yellow pill will form. I find these words a little bizarre and incomprehensible. Can Zhang Laoshi clarify its meaning for me? When she says the word, clarify, her teeth almost shatter from the intense force between them, and the sound of its grinding is clear to hear. As a great beauty, if it isn't to embarrass him, she would never seek guidance from a trash. You still want to ask questions despite that memory of yours? He didn't expect the other party to ask such a question. He purses his lips and replies, the phrase should be, if the herbs agglutinate, it would be difficult for the pill to form. If the herbs scatter, a yellow pill will form. Its meaning is simple. When refining a pill, the moment that the herbal fluid or powder clumps together, it would be impossible to meld their medical properties together. On the other hand, if they are separated and mixed together thoroughly, the pill that would be formed will look like the yellows of an egg. After flipping through all of the books in the compendium pavilion, he is able to retrieve the correct method for the refinement of the pill with just a jolt of his consciousness. She might be able to stump others with such a question, but directing it towards him? What a joke! What's worst is that she even recited the question wrongly. Her standard is too subpar. How? You can't reply it, can you? Ah. What did you say? She thought that the young man would be unable to reply her question. Not even in her dreams would she fathom that Zhang Xuan would be able to answer the question so casually. Unprepared for such a twist, Shen Bairu is dumbfounded, her beautiful eyes almost popping out of their sockets. She intentionally recited the phrase wrongly so that he would offer the wrong guidance. In her viewpoint, this fellow was just making up a show in the compendium pavilion, not absorbing the slightest bit of knowledge in those books at all. If she were to casually whip out the contents of a book, he would be foreign to them. Thus, she recited it inaccurately so that he would make a fool of himself. Who knew that he would see through her inaccurate reciting and even offered the most correct answer? How? How is this possible? Could it be that this fellow has really remembered the entirety of 8 methods of pill refinement just by flipping through it? But that's impossible. He is a fellow who scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. How could he possibly be knowledgeable in something as unconventional as pill refining? Alright, do you have any other questions? Stroking his shriveled stomach, Zhang Xuan hurries her. I still have more. Despite the overwhelming shock, upon seeing the impassive look on his face, Shen Bairu immediately recovers and poses another question. There is another phrase that I don't understand. When refining a metal in flames, never melt them when it is impure. After finishing her words, she smiles coldly as she awaits for the stumped look on the other party. The question she asked previously was on pill refinement, while this one is a dictum on weapon forging. This is a phrase she saw on an ancient book. She was unable to understand the saying ever after analyzing it for a month. In the end, she only managed to clarify it after consulting a master blacksmith. Initially, she only wanted to embarrass the other party to let him know the price of offending her. Yet, she didn't expect him to be able to explain the meaning of the words in the 8 methods of pill refinement. This provoked the competitive spirit within her, inducing her to come up with a difficult question to leave him speechless. This. Standing by the side, Elder Mo was surprised when Zhang Xuan was able to answer the first question. Even so, he wasn't particularly shocked. 8 methods of pill refinement is a basic manual that innumerable rookie apothecaries would have to learn, similar to what Hongshan 9 Dan formula is to cultivators. Even if one doesn't learn pill refinement, it isn't peculiar for them to know a thing or two about it. When Shen Bairu asked the second question, he is stunned. That's because even he found it hard to decipher the meaning of these words. CHECK out LT Cent VL on Novel bin, .cm. When refining a metal in flames, never melt them when it is impure. Just when the two of them thought that he would be incapable of answering, Zhang Xuan shakes his head and looks at Shen Bairu as though he is looking at an idiot. What is so hard to comprehend about these words? It just means that when forging weapons, one must first refine the respective materials in fire to thoroughly to clear away all impurities. Only then can the weapon be melded together more effectively. May I trouble you to ask some harder questions? This basic knowledge can be grasped easily after reading more books. This. Shen Bairu's slim body jolts. She had to consult many different people before she got an answer to this question of hers. Yet, this young man managed to point out the crux of the dictum instantly. This. Not just her, even Elder Mo almost faints from astonishment. For Zhang Xuan to answer a question he didn't know the answer to, could it be that he was studying seriously when he was flipping through all those books? Zhang Xuan Laoshi, your answer seems to be incorrect though. I remember that there is an explanation of it on discussions of miscellaneous disputes which is different from what you claim. It states that if one wants to add metal material to a pill, one would have to refine it first, otherwise it would not coagulate as one. In a state of disbelief, Elder Mo speaks up. You remembered it wrongly, there isn't such a phrase in discussions of miscellaneous disputes, neither is there anything of that sort written in it. The one you read must be discussion of miscellaneous theories written by Senior Liu Jie. There is a phrase similar to it in there, but what that is written is, when refining a metal along with a pill, never mix them when it is impure, and not refining a metal in flames. Zhang Xuan waves his hand majestically. He isn't aware that the both of them are testing him. He truly thought that the both of them couldn't remember the contents clearly, and thus, he casually continues, "Oh, this book is at the corner of the 9th row in the compendium pavilion. The words that you just said are recorded on the 49th page. As for the question Shen Laoshi just asked, if you hold doubts about my explanation, you can browse through 3 Arts of Fire Crafting left behind by Senior Du Qiuyu. It is by the corner of the 15th bookshelf and the explanation of it is written on the 24th page. Let me take a look." Shen Bairu looks at him with doubtful eyes. She hurriedly rushes back into the compendium pavilion and in a short moment, she comes back with 2 books in her hand, Discussion of Miscellaneous Theories and 3 Arts of Fire Crafting. Flipping to the page that the latter said, she staggers and almost passes out on the spot. To think that it would be identical to what Zhang Xuan said, there is not even a single discrepancy. Not only did he remember the contents of the book, he could even point out which book it came from, its location and even the page number. Is this for real?